We'll open phone and text lines to ask, what are Trump's critics actually missing? And what is it about Trump that 53% of America approves of? Call or text.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Speaking of politics, after we hear from you, we'll be joined by chairs of both the Mass GOP and the Mass Democrats here for a Monday morning politics panel.
PR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. A third federal judge has blocked President Trump's executive action attempting to repeal birthright citizenship for some Americans. NPR's Jimena Bustillo reports Trump's action is intended to deter migration.
The judge heard arguments over the Trump administration's effort to reinterpret the 14th Amendment to limit which U.S.-born children get automatic citizenship. The judge raised questions over what might happen to the children of migrants without permanent status if they were to hypothetically be born while the courts decide the rule of law. U.S. government lawyers said the Supreme Court could eventually restore citizenship to those who might lose it if it rules against the government. But lawyers on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union said families stuck in limbo would suffer irreparable harm. The judge ultimately said he was not persuaded by the government's position. Jimena Bustillo, NPR News, Washington.
The U.S. Senate is expected to vote today on whether to confirm Tulsi Gabbard as the next Director of National Intelligence. NPR's Kristen Wright reports Gabbard is one of President Trump's most divisive cabinet nominees.
The former Hawaii Congresswoman's record on foreign policy has come under sharp scrutiny even by Republicans, including her past defense of Edward Snowden, who revealed a secret government surveillance program and leaked classified documents. Some senators are also troubled by Gabbard's comments suggesting support for Russia and her 2017 visit with Syria's now ousted dictator Bashar al-Assad. She narrowly survived an intelligence committee vote, winning key Republican support to advance to the Senate floor today.
NPR's Kristen Wright reporting. To retaliate or not to retaliate? That is the question many countries are mulling today. That's after President Trump's announcement last night of 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imported into the U.S. NPR's Lauren Frayer has more from London.
The British steel industry is already in decline, and a 25% tariff on exports to the U.S. would be a, quote, devastating blow. That's according to a statement from the head of UK Steel, an industry group, which is calling on the UK government to, quote, act decisively in response. British officials already have a plan on the shelf for retaliatory tariffs, but they're holding off so far to see if they can possibly get an exemption from Trump. 10% of British steel goes to the U.S. It's the industry's second biggest market after the European Union. The UK has a trade deficit with the US and had been hoping to avoid tariffs now that it's exited the EU. Lauren Frayer, NPR News, London.
President Trump also says he plans to announce reciprocal tariffs this week on other countries if they impose retaliatory tariffs. This comes as China imposes tariffs today on U.S. products of 10 to 15%. These target U.S. farm products and U.S. crude oil. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials are up nearly 120 points. You're listening to NPR.
Good morning with the latest from the GBH newsroom. I'm Henry Santoro. Hold on. I'm losing my voice. In an email to John, go to the network.
At the age of 92, the acclaimed author was best known for books such as Jitterbug Perfume and Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. As Tom Vitale reports, Robbins died over the weekend at his home in Washington State.
Tom Robbins was known for novels filled with colorful language, eccentric characters, and bizarre situations that helped define him as a counterculture writer starting in the early 1970s. But Robbins told NPR in 2014 he thought that label pigeonholed his writing unfairly.
I wouldn't have missed, say, the 60s for $1 billion, but neither I nor my life's work can be defined by counterculture sensibilities.
What could define the work of Tom Robbins, he said, was the way he used language, brilliantly, playfully, and precisely, in best-selling novels that must have been both a joy and a challenge for the people who translated them into Russian, Spanish, and more than a dozen other languages. For NPR News, I'm Tom Vitale in New York.
Officials in Perth, Australia say that pop singer Bryan Adams called off a concert last night. The trouble was the sewage system in the arena in Western Australia. It turns out there was a huge blockage in the pipes of fat, grease, and rags. It's sometimes called a fatberg. Local water authorities say if toilets overflowed, that could be a health risk. You're listening to NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Lilly Endowment, a private foundation supporting NPR's coverage of religion and spirituality, and Jarl and Pamela Mohn, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts.
Eastern Brownie, I am Marjorie Yeagan. Welcome to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We'll be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow and Wednesday for Ask the Mayor. Michelle will be with us between 11 and noon, taking our questions and yours. And March 5th, we're going to be joined by the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Campbell. Hello, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
Eagles won. Your congratulations,
I know.
Jim. Thank you.
Congratulations, Jim. You did a hell of a job.
I feel I did.
I tell you,
I did.
The way you were tackling that.
My blocking was really extraordinary. I don't want to brag, but
you
it
could
was.
be on the. You might make it on the defensive line, Jim.
No, I could sit on the bench. That's good. So Trump took the oath of office exactly 3 weeks ago today, and as of the latest polling, 53% say they support his actions. Deportations, tariffs, DOGE, getting rid of the penny. We're actually going to talk about that later in the show. I don't think that was part of it. Whatever it is, a majority approve of it. So to start today, the lines are open at 877-301-8970 to call or text. If you're now in the minority who think cruelty and chaos should not be the point of the federal government, what are you missing? What is it that the 53% approve of that you, a minority, disapprove of? Are we missing something about Trump's ability to cut through the establishment order to get what he wants? Is it the upending of things that generally proceed at a glacial pace in the bureaucracy, even if the people who are doing the upending are the world's richest man and a bunch of teenagers and likely acting illegally? I mean, for example, this is not an Elon Musk thing. Here's Donald Trump holding the Biden-era National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program because it's part of the Green New Scam, he calls it. To recap, $5 billion in federal grants for the program has resulted in a whopping 55 chargers being fully
Can you believe
operational.
that?
And he has said, enough of that, it is gone. So, question's quite simple. What are the 47% of Americans missing that the majority of Americans approve of with Donald Trump? 877-301-8970 is the number. What's your answer to the question?
Well, a million years ago, when Nixon won 49 states except for Massachusetts, when McGovern won here, I was with McGovern way back then as a youngin'.
Don't blame us was the bumper sticker.
So the fact that I'm outnumbered, there's a lot of things to be upset about if you are a Democrat. We've talked about this a lot. That we are, as we said, 55 chargers. I mean, you're talking about the Democrats, the big climate side, right? Can't you build things a little bit faster than that? The private sector was able to build them faster than that. We've been talking about housing here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts endlessly. Where are the houses? I mean, they're coming,
you're right. Trump
I guess.
is doing a lot on that. That's a good
Well,
point.
he's not, but I think that there's a sense. One of the things you find, I'm a big listener to podcasts. You don't listen to as many as I do, but one of the big themes has been that in democratically run states and cities, things move very slowly. So we don't get an improvement on, rents and costs, and you're so permitted up, you can't build anything.
Okay, what is Donald Trump doing about those things again?
Well, it's frustration with the Democratic Party and the stuff that the Democrats have done, which Biden has done. I think because he was a poor messenger, people don't really know about the CHIPS bill and the fact that there's been a lot of investment in manufacturing that's come back to this country. People don't know.
Well, you're
about
not
that.
identifying what's wrong with the Democrats. The question was not, do you think the Democrats are a mess? We'll discuss that with the chair of the State Democratic Committee in a few minutes, who will be joined by the chair of the State Republican Committee. They are saying 53%, a majority of Americans are saying they approve of how Donald Trump is doing the job. And in light of the fact that you and I are among those who believe that cruelty has been the thing, extra legality has been the thing, Elon Musk running wild has been the thing, it's pretty obvious to me that we are missing something that a majority of our fellow Americans are pretty fond of.
Listen, I think when the results of a lot of this come home to roost, people might have a little bit of different ideas about this. I certainly don't think that most Americans think that we should get rid of a third of the FBI, and a lot of Americans did not think it was a good idea to do what Donald Trump did with the January 6th protesters. So, I mean, I think it's the same thing, the same problem that we've had. Is it, if you think the federal government is too big and sclerotic, does it look great to slash all these government programs? Yeah, I guess it does. But what happens when you slash all these government programs? Tens of thousands of people lose their jobs. And when that starts to happen...
And you lose services, which the Democrats
Yes.
have done a pretty feeble job of explaining to
Yes.
people. The number's 877-301-8970.
And the other thing is, as we pointed out a million times, even though the Republicans are the ones who talk about the wedge issues all the time, like LGBTQ stuff and trans stuff, I think a lot of people blame the Democrats for that, even though it's the Republicans that talk about it endlessly.
877-301-8970. Just this morning, J.D. Vance's comment is, judges can't control president's legitimate power. Well, obviously, they can't control his legitimate power, but can't you see 53% nodding their heads saying, yeah, that's true? Well, of course it's true. Everybody agrees that is true. By the way, here's one of the 47%. Lucy in Worcester texted, personally, I'm feeling pretty icky that Big Balls now has my Social Security number. He is one of the children who is
He's 19.
Working
he just
for,
graduated from high school.
Elon Musk, who apparently may have
He started these
Social
companies.
Security
Two
number.
of them have their domains in Russia.
Yeah.
He's at Northeastern, by the way. Well,
Is
maybe
he-
he's not.
is he?
Well, he's probably not at Northeastern
taking a
now
leave
because
probably
he's taking
to,
over
yeah.
the government. But he's the class of 28 at Northeastern University.
You know what I think may explain
knuckled
part
under
of the
pretty quick
53%?
there, too.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's fast as Harvard. The Kennedy Center, Trump over the weekend had enough time to eliminate the whole board of the Kennedy Center. Andy Borowitz, and he's appointed himself chair of the board of the Kennedy Center. And Andy Borowitz wrote this morning that he's going to make himself the chief ballerina because he's
that's
upset
right.
that it's all women who are ballerinas. In any case, I'm not sure. You know, let me, before we get to the calls, hearken back to my explanation of this. And please don't tell me I've told the story 10,000 times because you like the story too. 2016, Margie and I were in New Hampshire for the presidential primary season. We went up to every uncommitted voter we could find. Who are you deciding between? Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. That populist image has stayed with him. Your position used to be, well, that was before he served 4 years. Well, apparently it's still there. People apparently like the notion of burning things down to fix them, and that is essentially what he is doing. And I think, again, the Democrats have done such a horrible job of explaining what the impact of some of these things is going to be on real people's lives.
It's going to be interesting because the consumer protection thing that Elizabeth Warren started that gives you some recourse to fight back against big banks or big corporations that screw you, that's going to be gone. And I think it's going to be kind of a shock if you think you've really gotten taken for a ride and there's nowhere to go to fix that in the federal government.
Well, they got to bring it down to the barbershop level is the bottom line if there is a hope for the opposition. But as of today, I'll say it one more time, a majority of the American people approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing.
You know what Democrats have to stop saying? Democracy is under threat. That is not a very good...
Well, it didn't work in the campaign, did it?
No, it didn't. I mean, you used to talk about Barbara Anderson all the time, talking about billions and billions of dollars.
No, I talked about billions and billions of dollars.
Yes, and she talked about how much the pizza cost on a Friday night. I mean, I think we need to do more of that
pizza.
Great Barbara Anderson wisdom.
Hey,
anyway, Kevin in New Hampshire, thank you for calling.
Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I've been listening to you since 2016 when I met you at the Renaissance Hotel in New Hampshire.
Oh, great. Kevin, I think I remember you.
Thank you for calling,
it's good to
Kevin.
See you.
Foot, silver hair, white Republican Catholic.
That's right. Very handsome, as I recall, Kevin.
I know a lot of
same guy?
silver-haired white Republican Catholics, Kevin, but I think I remember you.
Magda, you're very good at saying a little bit of the lie.
That's right.
So what's up today, Kevin? It's great to hear from you. What's up?
So, I have to say, I haven't really agreed with you guys in several months.
It's fine.
But I agree there's a process problem that Trump's doing. But he doesn't care. He's opening the can of worms in hopes that he'll bring change otherwise. Why do we talk about the process so much? You've not talked about the millions of dollars that have gone overseas that do nothing for Americans.
We have never said it's done nothing for Americans. I think it does huge things for Americans. It keeps, first of all, the thing it does is it's morally correct. In terms of helping people who can't help themselves. Let me just finish, Kevin, and then you can respond. Adequate food, vaccinations they can't afford, and if people don't care about the morality or humanitarian part of it, it has people in these countries looking to the United States for humanitarian leadership rather than China or Vladimir Putin. I think that does huge things for us. It's called soft power, as Charlie Sennett was talking about with this. You don't buy that.
Oh no, I do. But what you're not buying is the $7 million for Bert and Ernie, the electric vehicles in Vietnam, the millions in transgender research overseas.
By the way, the transgender stuff, if you read...
I don't think it's true.
I read the story about that's the State Department. And so as to whether or not that should be paid for, that's a legitimate question. But Kevin, I guess what I'd say to you, and it's good to hear from you, it is fine to ferret out what the leaders consider to be inappropriate expenses. It is not fine to shut the whole thing down to try to cure what ails it.
But hold on, Kevin. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that you're a Catholic, and Catholic Relief Services, which is, I think, a very esteemed organization that's one of the biggest suppliers of charity around the world, they're losing their jobs. Not gone, you're done, with no severance, no nothing, having to come back to the United States very, very quickly for people that haven't lived overseas. I would have at least have liked a little bit more, look at the areas where there's problems before everybody loses their jobs. You know what I mean?
Oh, I can understand that, except I've been watching this since 2021 with Senator Mace of South Carolina, and the Republicans have not been able to get anything done, which is why you don't see Republicans in Congress standing up saying what Trump is doing is wrong, because they haven't been able to do this. The American people are tired of spending money where it shouldn't be spent. I totally agree with you. Medicine, humanitarian aid, etc. Great. But what I don't agree with is that you bury it under the brush of humanitarian effort and you're spending all of these millions and millions on other things, you're not getting rid of those programs.
Can I tell you, Kevin, I think you are speaking exactly what most of the 53% are thinking. And thanks for the call. It's good to connect with you again. Again, I think both of us believe you ferret out the misspending. Don't throw out the proverbial baby. But I think you have captured what is moving a huge percentage of the American people.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel bad. We've stopped everything, and people don't have any food. And the idea that we couldn't have phased this out or been more careful from starving kids that you're going to see pretty
I can't
soon.
afford eggs, that person says, in the 53%.
Yeah.
Take care of me first, and then we can take care of other people.
When 2/3 of America is obese, I don't think we have to worry that much.
What do you think the average person is saying that?
I think
I don't worry about the price of eggs because I'm fat.
I think a lot of people, I think if you have a little heart, you're a little upset about people starving to death. I mean,
47% probably are. 53% are saying put America first, I think is what they're saying anyway.
Okay. All right. I think most of us have at least a decent amount to eat here in the United States of America. I know we're food insecure in a lot of places, but I don't think anybody's starving. Anyway, more of your calls and texts after this.
People are? What are you talking about? People are starving here, but that's not even the issue. I'm not making the case
Food
on the merits.
insecurity is not
I'm
starving.
trying to explain. I understand that.
Yeah.
Some people are starving here, but I'm also making the case that 53% of people don't buy this argument.
They're starving to death in the United States of America.
Well, I think some people, food insecurity can be extreme for people.
No, it's not. That's not starving, Jim. These people are going to die of
fine.
starvation.
Okay.
That's different. Okay, more of your calls and texts after this quick pledge break. You're listening 89.7 GBH.
Live, local, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
I think we can all agree you're not ready to go out the door in the morning unless you were equipped with a fanny pack. Wouldn't you say that's true, Jim?
I have to say, I can't imagine myself with a fanny pack, so
Okay.
I'll let you do the selling here.
That is our gift for today. I would wear the fanny pack in the front
Well, there
myself.
you go. Perfect.
Turn around. It could be a belly button pack
Belly
or something
button pack,
instead.
yep.
But we don't call it a fanny pack
Nope.
here. We call it a belt bag. But that is our present for today in our pledge drive to entice people that may be hesitating for $10 a month, and that's a big deal. That makes you a sustaining member, so we can plan ahead for our budget. You get one of these belt bags, if you call it a fanny pack, if you like, and you can throw everything in there: your phone, your keys, your wallets. Everything is accessible. You have an adjustable waist strap, so you can wear it around your waist or kind of across your body, kind of like a pocketbook kind of deal that swings over one shoulder and winds up down the other side of your body. Of course, Jim, it has the GBH 89.7 and NPR logos in white, and that is a sustaining member deal for $10 a month or $120 all at once. But the deadline is 2 o'clock today. That means that you and I are on the fanny pack detail, Jim. So we have to do the best we can between now and 2 o'clock on the fanny pack front. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Let's face it, some of us would not look that good with a fanny pack. And so if you're into it, and then buy it for a friend or somebody who would be fanny pack ready. And again, it's called the GBH belt bag, I think, is the euphemism. But a lot of people wear these things, particularly people who travel, wear fanny packs so you don't get robbed and that sort of thing. But that's really irrelevant. What is relevant is this is Pledge Week, a couple of more days. And if you like what you're hearing here from dawn to dusk, it's an opportunity to help support it at 888-897-9424. gbhnews.org. I don't know if Marjorie just said that. I was looking at my notes here. But more than 70% of our money, I'm sure you've memorized this already from us, our budget comes from listener support. That would be you. Here's your opportunity to participate in that. And by the way, we got a lot of texts from people or notes when they contribute saying, I'm already a sustaining member, meaning I give something every month, comes off my credit card out of my checking account. But I'm going to give a little bit more because I think particularly now, what is done on this radio station is more important than ever. If you're among those people, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan live from Brighton, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We are attempting to talk unsuccessfully, at least between the two of us, about why 53% of the American people approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing, even though there are a lot of us who think there is very little to be happy about. And we want to know if you're part of the 53%, why are you there? And if you're part of the 47%, what are you missing that a majority of your fellow Americans are into? Judy and Townsend, welcome to the show. Hi.
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 I'm calling because I'd say we're way too early in talking about this. I say come back in a year. I think people are very interested right now in giving liberals a hard time. That's part of this. And I also think people have not felt the sting of what's going to happen when their children start to get the measles because you don't have to get vaccinated anymore, that there are more guns because the laws are different and people are getting killed in the street more. Or there are people who, want to get their passport and there's nobody at the agency to take care of you. I think that's what's going to happen. There'll be nobody at these agencies to help the American people, and they don't feel that yet, but they soon will.
Well, Judy, can I tell you something? You and I and Marjorie can probably wait a year. A lot of people in this country can't wait a year, and I would suggest what that means is that people, particularly in the opposition party, have to figure out how to do a better job of explaining to the American people, even before they feel the pain, why what they don't like, the American people should not like either. This wait for you are totally right. Most people are not feeling the impact. But it's hard for a lot of people, particularly low and moderate income people, to live with the impact. I hope we don't have to wait that long. Judy, thank you for the call.
Well, we're going to lose a lot of money here because of cutbacks in NIH.
Absolutely, that's a good point.
But Massachusetts is a fairly rich state. A lot of the stories this morning are talking about the places that are red states, which are not rich states, which get a lot more money from the federal government than they give to the federal government. The leaders there, the senators and the governors there, are getting a little nervous about what this could mean.
I would agree with that in the abstract, but then as you were talking, I was thinking, I was nodding in agreement. Remember years ago we used to talk about the fact that so many red state governors refused a Medicaid match under Obamacare? What was that doing? They were refusing to accept free money from the federal government to help their constituents.
Yes,
so if they're willing to have their constituents suffer then, why aren't they willing now?
Because those were poor people, Jim.
Yeah.
They weren't people that are
That's a good point,
big in the
maybe.
Chamber of Commerce and big in the Rotary and all that kind of stuff. So somebody just said they paid $7.69 for a dozen eggs at the Big Y in Peabody. And then Art from West Bridgewater says, remember the little boy who cried wolf? Dems have said threat to democracy, et cetera, for so long without the sky actually falling. Nobody hears it anymore. And
Well, they sure as hell didn't hear it on November 5th. He's right about
and
that.
I think the threat to democracy thing was always a bad slogan because what does that mean? Where's the pizza in there that we just discussed?
Glenn and Franklin, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
In a word to answer your question, what the supporters of Trump lack is foresight. They can't imagine what these cuts are going to cause. For example, you mentioned this morning the Consumer Finance Protection Agency.
Yep.
I think most people have forgotten that came into existence as a result of the banking collapse
Yes.
that put us over the financial edge. One other point that I would make, I worked in education for 30 years, and there were lean times and cuts had to be made. They didn't shut down the school system because there wasn't enough money to fund a year. They looked at the budget surgically, and they might have said to each department head, you need to cut 10% or 15% from your budget so we can make it work. So to eliminate the entire agencies is foolhardy.
Can I tell you, you said it far better than I said it to Kevin, our first caller. That's what I was trying to say, but you said it beautifully, Glenn. Thank you very much for the call. 877-301-8970. For example, talk about effect not being felt, as our caller said a minute ago. How much did we learn last week in special ed money comes from the Education Department federally to Massachusetts? I don't remember the precise number, but it's a lot.
I think it's almost all of it.
Well, I'm not sure. Whatever it is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Obviously, that's not going to be felt till down the line.
For K through 12 comes from the federal government in large part, too.
Well, I don't think a majority, but a lot of it comes from the federal government, specifically for things like special ed and that kind of thing. Steve in Cambridge, hello.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Good.
I could argue with you all day long.
Good.
You ask.
Call me at 2:00. Go ahead.
You ask all the time, what is Trump doing?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Trump said for every new regulation, he's going to get rid of 10 regulations. Remember that?
Yeah.
Doesn't California have all kinds of problems with regulations and permits and all kinds of bureaucracy to make things more expensive and hotter? That's one thing that Trump's doing.
By the way, stop there. I agree with you. Cutting through so-called red tape, whether he's doing it or not, is an appealing message. Marjorie was talking about that this morning in our meeting.
Well, he's doing it to the rebuilding after the fires.
He's also cutting through laws. He doesn't have the ability to abolish or eviscerate some of these departments that he's doing. Congress only does, but because the Republican majority in Congress doesn't have the courage to stand up to him, he's getting away with it. But go ahead, Steve. Next.
Right. So one of the things, the problem is that everybody's questioning, they're not questioning the actual money spent. Why is that? Why don't they question the $50 million for the condoms in Gaza?
That was
because it's not true. That's why.
Steve, that was a lie. That wasn't true. Actually, they talked about, when they were talking about sending the condoms to Hamas, I figured one day Trump said it was $50 million, then he raised it to $100 million. They figured he would have had to have sex 283 times a day, each Hamas fighter, to make that true. But that wasn't true, Steve.
But, Steve, the regulatory point that you made first, whether he's doing it or not, is a very appealing notion to a lot of people, particularly small businesses. I agree with that. Steve, thank you very much for the call. What did you say at the beginning before we leave this? What do you think is the major reason his number is 53%?
Well, I think that there was a sense that Democrats weren't paying enough attention to the economy. It's not a good thing to talk about the unemployment rate and stuff when people can't make it through the week. They weren't able to talk about. We haven't talked about housing as a nationwide issue until 6 months?
He doesn't talk about it either. He talks about eggs and gas, and eggs and gas are going up. So is there a point at which the 53% say, and by the way, the one thing in the poll where they are not happy with Trump is that he's not bringing prices down fast enough.
But a lot of them are willing to give him some time to do that, to bring. But I think the cost of living was a huge thing, and immigration. And Democrats really we're not very good on immigration, constantly blaming it on racism, when you had a good chunk of Latinos voting for people or Mexicans voting for other Mexicans coming here, it wasn't certainly all about race.
Well, it doesn't mean it isn't racism. It may mean that they're ignoring it and they think there's something higher than that. You don't think racism was part of the motivation?
Well, I think if you grew up in Mexico and you come here from Mexico and you don't want more Mexican people to come here, I don't think that is racism, is it?
On the part of the president?
On the part of the Latinos.
Oh, I wasn't talking about the voters. I was talking about the guys
Latino
advancing
voters
the policy.
Were big voters for Donald Trump.
They were.
And obviously a lot of them did not want any more people coming here.
We got to take a break.
They came here themselves. Anyway, we're talking about...
No, we're not.
Oh, we're not? We're moving on?
No, we are.
Oh, my God.
That's okay.
Why so quickly I can't keep up. Okay, who are we talking to next? We're talking to Amy Carnevale.
We are.
Who's the head of the Republican Party in Massachusetts, and Steve Kerrigan, who's the head of the Democratic Party in Massachusetts. We're going to ask both of them what Amy Carnevale thinks about the future of the GOP here and what Steve Kerrigan thinks the Dems are getting wrong and a bunch of other stuff. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
So our favorite part of Pledge has begun. We say this, I say it every day. We never read a positive comment about the two of us except during Pledge. And some of you who've been kind enough to make contributions took the time to say some very nice things. Janice in Hubbardston said, I appreciate the in-depth reporting, even though the news is tough to listen to lately. I tune in daily. I love Jim and Marjorie. Cyrus Portsmouth, long-time fan of Jim and Marjorie, and a ton of people who have been given money talk about how much they appreciate the work that our colleagues do, and so do we. If you want to support the work that our colleagues do on air and behind the scenes, this is your opportunity to do it. You call 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org, and Marjorie is now going to explain to you why you cannot live without a fanny pack.
Well, think about all those people you just named, Jim, and that's only a small portion. You know what they all have now, or a lot of them have?
Fanny packs.
They have fanny packs.
Yes,
on the way, speeding toward them. And it's a life changer, have that little fanny pack. Like I said, no outfit is complete without a fanny pack attached. I'm not sure if it looks that good with a nice suit. Oh, but in any case, it is fun to have one of those for the beat. Yeah, because you can stick a lot of things in there.
You can?
Yes, you can.
Like what again?
Well, you can stick in your glasses, your phone, your wallet, your credit cards. You can put all there in that little fanny pack.
Okay,
or you can wear it in the front, and then it's a belly pack instead. You can go either way. And we like to give you options here at GBH. But the fanny pack is only available to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Today, that's when our show ends. So it has the GBH 89.7 and the NPR logos on it in white. It's black with the logos in white. It's the important thing is that we depend on listener generosity to keep this operation going. So we hope you can help us this pledge week. It's only, 1 day left, 2 days left?
I don't know.
888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org is the way to get in touch with us.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browder. She's Marjorie Egan. We're live in Studio 3, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow, Wednesday at the library. The mayor joins us. Mayor Wu joins us from 11 to 12. And by the way, please stop writing. We have reached out to Josh Kraft every single day. He's doing other interviews. For some reason, he has not booked us, but it's not for lack of trying. We're joined now on Zoom by the heads of the Massachusetts Republican and Democratic parties to hear from them about a whole variety of things. Amy Carnevale just recently reelected chair of the Mass GOP. She told us she was going to one of the balls. We'll hear about that in a second. And Steve Kerrigan is chair of the Massachusetts Democratic Party. He was not at any of the balls in Washington last week. Gentlemen and ladies, it's great to see you both. Thanks so much for being here.
Nice to be here.
Thank you.
Amy.
Hey, thank you both for coming in. So, Steve, let's start with you. We were just talking with listeners about the fact that more than half of Americans, at least according to this one poll we were talking about this morning, 53%, are happy with what President Trump is doing, and they are, very few of them, was it 27%?
27% approve what the Democrats
are unhappy with the Democrats. So something's wrong here for the Democrats. What is it?
Well, I mean, certainly, if you look at the presidential results from November, there was a lot wrong with how we executed the ground game and all kinds of issues about messaging and whatnot. It certainly wasn't a money issue, and I wouldn't think I wouldn't say it's a down ballot issue, because if you saw results here in Massachusetts and around the country, in Wisconsin, they had major gains in every race but the presidential. So what we're spending our time on now, Marjorie, is listening to Democrats all across Massachusetts and organizing. We have 631 days between now and the midterms. Donald Trump has total control of Washington. The House and the Senate, the White House, he is going to, frankly, come through with a lot of the promises that he made in his campaign. And I think the American people are going to have to either live with it or make some big changes. So I'm more focused on what we're doing in the next 631 days to organize to make sure that we take back the House and the Senate in 26 and the Democrats sworn in 29.
Amy, let's stay on the national stuff for a few minutes, then we'll come back to Massachusetts. I think most people I know, including conservatives I know, think, for example, Tulsi Gabbard is going to be voted on today, is totally unqualified and a danger to the United States as head of national intelligence, that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is totally unqualified to be head of Health and Human Services. Republicans aren't standing up to that, and they're not standing up to Trump, even on him allowing Elon Musk to do things that only Congress can do. Even if Republicans like it in the short run, doesn't it damage democracy in the long run?
Well, thanks for that question, Jim. And I think it's worth remembering and the Republican platform. If you look at the Republican platform, which Donald Trump himself was involved in drafting, he talked about a lot of these issues that are now being implemented by the federal government. And certainly there has been criticism that Elon Musk is his agenda. But as a matter of fact, it really is Donald Trump's agenda. And it's something he talked about openly during the campaign. He talked about during the writing of the platform at the convention long before Elon Musk was involved. And, now we're seeing that, Donald Trump was in fact serious about implementing these changes. And, he does have total control of the three branches in government. And the Congress now, Republicans in Congress largely are willing to see his agenda implemented, and so they are going along with it.
But one of the things, Amy, I always talk about my family members or Thanksgiving is always fraught because we're on different sides of the issue. But one of the things that they're upset about, or these close people to me, is Musk, is the idea of our personal information, our Social Security numbers, if you applied for college loans, all that stuff. And you got some 19-year-old kid who, as you know, calls himself Big Balls, who's at Northeastern, is one of the people in charge, and a guy who also said some very racist things and has been rehired and says we should hate Indians. He's in there too. So that kind of stuff is a little nerve-wracking to even people who are big supporters of Donald Trump. What do you say to them?
Yeah, certainly that's been talked about a lot in the media. I think it's a little bit of a red herring. I do, certainly, access to information on the part of the federal government is standard protocol and procedure. Certainly acknowledge that the way that this administration is going about it is a much different way than what we've seen in the past, and even in past Republican administrations.
Yeah, but Amy,
yeah, go ahead.
The Republican Party, no party in living history has ever just shown up at the Department of Treasury with some 19-year-old musketeer. They're collecting people's data. They have access to that stuff, sure, because they run the Treasury Department, not somebody who is from a department that's not a department working out of some cubicle in OEOG.
Can I get in this conversation?
It's certainly not unusual, though, that the department would contract with individuals. I mean,
is it unusual for a department to stop members of Congress or an oversight committee from entering the building? No, that is very unusual.
It's certainly unusual the way that it happened as well.
So, Steve, let me enter this conversation. This is a hypothetical, but it seems to me that if there was a Democratic president and the Democratic president found the richest person they could find to hire some kids and go into one of these departments, the Republicans would capture the imagination of the American people about the outrage of it far better than the Democrats have. Now, you may consider that to be unfair because it is just a hypothetical, but don't you feel that the Democrats don't have the ability to craft the message to explain to the American people how, let me be kind, how out of the norm this kind of thing is?
Look, I think the American people are seeing how out of the norm this is, but what has to happen is that we have to connect the actions that they're doing with people's lives. And I'll say this, the work that Elon Musk is doing nothing to lower the theoretical price of eggs. It's doing nothing to increase the wage numbers in this country. It's doing nothing to do all the things that a bunch of Trump voters voted for Trump to do. And that's what I get booed sometimes quietly at Democratic events when I say the majority of Trump voters, I don't think are bad people. I don't think they're misogynist, racist, xenophobes. They wanted things a little easier. I have a neighbor who said to me he just felt like his life was easier when it happened, but he does not want this. And I think a lot of the Republicans and independents who voted for, and maybe even some Democrats who voted for Donald Trump, are going to see this and push back against it. And I will say, I was just in Washington for a conference, and members of Congress are showing up. They're showing up at USAID. Jim McGovern was there for hours. I met with Ed Markey right after he was at the EPA, demanding access to the EPA to talk to our scientists, and they were turned away by these Elon Musketeers who are just taking over our government. And I don't think folks in the Republican Party that I remember, the party that stood for smaller government and lower taxes and less government intervention, I don't think this is what they voted for. And that's ultimately what the Republican Party here in Massachusetts...
Well, they think it's what they voted for. 53% of them say they like it.
And we can go poll to poll. I saw 51% that said that it's an unfavorable.
Okay, Amy, we only have 30 seconds because we're in pledge and we're going to come back and discuss state stuff. There is a point at which when gas prices don't come down, egg prices don't come down, that even those who voted for Trump said on national TV the other day, I won because of egg prices. When they keep going up,
Jim,
he's going to pay a price, right?
Trump voters, I think they understand that making these fundamental changes, significant changes in the federal government agencies take time, and it's going to take some time to see these policies implemented. And the price of eggs, we've got a bird flu going on.
Yeah, but he did say day one. He knew about it, and he did say day one, and day one is now day 21. In any case, we got to take a break.
Okay, we got to take a break, but we're going to come right back after this brief break to talk more with Amy Carnevale, who heads up the Republican Party in Massachusetts, and Steve Kerrigan, who heads up the Democrats. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support, so please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
Okay, I guess the fanny pack is getting a lot of business because we have a lot of people getting the $10 a month deal, and they're writing in to say nice things about the station, which is wonderful. Kaylee from Whitman says, your work is thought-provoking, trustworthy, necessary. I'm very appreciative of the hope and strength that your voices bring to listeners. How about that? Are they talking about us, hope and strength?
I think they're talking about the fanny pack, actually.
Okay, they're talking about the fanny pack, okay. Douglas from Mansfield, I support GBH because Jim and Marjorie provide wonderful balance. Music Fridays, the gentle ribbing and passion of the guest. GBH is an international treasure. So that's very nice. We very appreciate that very much. We've talked a lot about Elon Musk. We're in his, he doesn't like us either. So this is a fraught time for National Public Radio. And if you like National Public Radio and like what you do here, I've said a million times that more than 70% of our budget comes from small contributions of listeners like you guys that are generous enough to donate $10 a month, $15 a month, $5 a month, whatever you can do. But we could be looking at a big gap here, and we hope that doesn't happen, but it could. So if you like what goes on here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
And Marjorie should have said she failed to do this. If you don't want to call it a fanny pack because you're embarrassed, you can call it a belt bag.
Belt bag, that's right.
You are free to do that. So if you want a belt bag, you can call 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Give $10 a month or $120 all at once. And Marjorie, usually these enticements, as Marjorie called them, disappear at 6 o'clock. Today, this disappears at 2 o'clock. So if you've been in the market for a belt bag with 89.7 GBH and NPR on it and that sort of thing, I'm not wearing this thing, but it actually is. As belt bags go, okay, fine. As belt bags go, it's fairly attractive. Regardless, it says people will see what you care about, and you apparently, if you're listening right now, care about the work that we and our colleagues do here at 89.7. So it's an opportunity for you to. What's the line you use from Mitt Romney all the time when he was talking about health care?
Not freeloaders, free riders.
Free riders, right? And so I know that's harsh. He said it, so we can say
this is about health care.
If you're listening, this is a free service, and if you like it, which apparently you do, even if you disagree with us on things, then contribute whatever you can. If you're in very good financial shape, contribute a lot. If you're having a tough time, contribute $1 or $2, just so you feel like you're part of the action. And you do that. It's a very brief process by calling 888-897-9424 or going to gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're speaking with Massachusetts political party chairs, Amy Carnevale on the Republican side, Steve Kerrigan on the Democratic side.
You know, Amy Carnevale, Jim and I spent a lot of time complaining about the legislature, which is about 90% Democrats up on Beacon Hill, their slowness to act on things, the fact you have to get badgered into coming back from their 5-month vacation, as Jim likes to call it, to pass legislation.
Because that's what it is.
It would help to have more Republicans up there to have a little bit more balance. But one of the things that seems to me is that, we elect the Mitt Romneys, the Bill Wells, the Charlie Bakers. We tend not to elect to the House or the Senate or the state representatives too radical Republicans. So how do you deal with that?
Well, Marjorie, it's really a question of recruitment and reaching out to business-oriented Republicans and convincing them that it's worth running for office. I think too many times we run into potential candidates that just feel like it's a futile mission to go up on Beacon Hill and that they can't accomplish very much given the supermajorities that they deal with, and also the lack of transparency and openness and dialogue and debate. And so, that's the trouble that we have on the Republican side is convincing, candidates who we think really could bring a lot to the dialogue and debate on Beacon Hill to actually run, that they can make a difference.
Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the Democratic State Convention unanimously endorse the auditing of the legislature question?
The state committee did, in a committee meeting, not the convention.
State committee did, I'm sorry. And obviously the Republican Party supported it and actually helped collect signatures. It seems to me that when 72% of the public say they want something, and the Democratic leaders use every trick in the book and then some to avoid complying with the will of the people, it's a hard backdrop for you to do your work against. It's pretty hard. I mean, do you defend their behavior on this question, or should they comply? And then if they think it's unconstitutional, let Andrea Campbell, the Attorney General, file something to say it's unconstitutional.
So my body is a body that's in charge of electing, re-electing, and supporting Democrats across the ballot. So that's what we focus on. I also think a lot of legislators, when they're not on the vacation you keep talking about, in the last 2 years alone, they passed historic tax cuts under this governor. They passed a $5 billion housing bond bill that previous Republican governors had ignored the crisis that we're facing, needing 200,000+ more units. This governor came in faced with $25 billion in deferred maintenance at the T, and now we have no slow zones on the T. So they've been working very hard. We had an historic, they, by the way, also, first time since 1780, gave every child in Massachusetts free lunch and breakfast at school so that hungry kids could learn.
All that is great, but we're the least transparent government, governor, executive, judiciary, and legislature in the country, and the two Democratic legislative leaders are fighting like hell.
And they came back after their vacation to do a lot of that stuff, which they didn't get done.
But some they did. I mean, Steve's right about
that. Some they
did. And how do you defend their unwillingness to say the people voted for this? Let's see what happens.
I point to all the successes this legislature has had and that this governor's had, and we talk with voters where they are and about issues that matter most to them.
Okay.
What do you think, Amy Carnevale, about the DiZoglio's efforts?
Thanks for getting me in. So, clearly, this was passed by voters, 72%. I mean, and so the fact that the legislative leaders are fighting tooth and nail, and so far the Attorney General has not stood up, it is just it's really thumbing their nose at the voters, and I think the leaders will pay consequences come election time if they don't go along with the will of the voters.
Well, I will say on the same ballot where the 72% voted, we had net zero loss in legislative seats. So the people are sending two different messages. They like the legislature they're sending to Beacon Hill. They like the work they're doing. They respect the efforts they're putting to make their lives easier, to bring down costs, to make housing more affordable, and to make their transportation more accessible. So you can't say
Just a minor
they voted this way. You can't say they voted this way.
Republicans did gain
They
a
also
state
reelected.
Senate.
I'm sorry, Amy, what are you going to say?
I just wanted to correct. It was not a net loss of zero.
what?
Republicans did get a state Senate
Amy
seat.
Carnevale, the Governor Healy on our show last Friday, I think it was, announced that she's running. She, quote, intends to run for re-election. I don't mean this in a disparaging way. The people I've read are thinking of running on the Republican side. Again, this is not a critic. I never even heard of them until I read their name in the newspaper. Is somebody who has some profile and standing and support and financing going to challenge Healy? Because I think you know enough of us. Both of us feel, regardless of how you feel about the incumbent, it is healthy, whether it's Mayor Wu or Governor Healy, to have a race with two smart, high-profile candidates. It's good for the state, good for democracy. Go ahead. Is there somebody?
Yes, there is somebody. At the present time, we actually have several Republicans talking about challenging Governor Healy, and I think the fact that several have come out at this point and are exploring it, a run actively, I think speaks to the fact that they feel like Governor Healy has not delivered, and so this is why they're thinking about running. So
anybody we've ever heard of who's contemplating doing this?
Absolutely, yes.
Like who?
Well, right now, Mike Keneally, former Secretary of Housing and Economic Development under Governor Baker, he has talked about the fact that he's looking to run, and there's a couple other Republicans, Brian Shortsleeve, who also worked in the first Baker administration. He's looking at it as well.
Okay.
And we have another elected official kind of.
Steve Kerrigan has raised his hand. Whenever somebody raises their hand as a guest on our show, we feel we have to recognize them. Mr. Kerrigan, you want to say something there?
Aren't you kind? I look forward to this campaign. I'm excited for the governor to talk to the voters, as she does every week, about what she's accomplished. But I also look forward to the Republican Party here in Massachusetts having to reconcile who they are versus what the Republican Party in Washington is, and reconcile with who they were. Brian Shortsleeve what ran the T, in essence, and the financing, and we had a $25 billion deficiency in infrastructure. Keneally was the head of housing, and we need 225,000 more housing units because they did nothing to improve affordable housing or just market rate housing. So I look forward to this debate. I think it's going to be a fantastic debate that will really help the people of Massachusetts understand the great things that Maura Healey and Kim Driscoll have done, and the lack of new ideas and the confusion about who the Republican Party is that the other side's going to.
Well, I'll just say that
Amy,
certainly
please.
the two individuals that I've mentioned, they are have served in public office. They've been successful in the private sector as well. So I think either one of them and potentially others could bring a lot to the table here in the Commonwealth.
Yep. I think a lot of us are very excited about the granny flats. That's what we're going to put in the backyards of all the...
Because you think you're going to be living in one. That's why
right.
you're
That's
excited
my plan.
about it.
Off to the granny flat. Hey, thank you very
Amy
much,
and
both
Steve,
of you,
it's
for
great to
coming
see you
in.
both. Hope you'll be back soon. Take care.
We have been speaking with Amy Carnevale, who's head of the Massachusetts Republican Party, and Steve Kerrigan, who's head of the Democratic Party. Thank you both very much for joining us. Okay, after the noon news, Axios business editor Dan Primack joins us. He's going to talk about the business world's reaction tips.
Tax on overtime.
If you're a tax on overtime, that's correct.
Thank you.
He's next on Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
It is the winter membership drive on GBH. Please take just a few minutes to invest in your future GBH listening. As a nonprofit public service, we count on listener contributions for over 70% of our income. So your gift is important. You don't have to give a lot to make a difference. Please give online now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424. I'm Maeve Buckley, and I'm joined by Melissa Jones.
Trusted news sources are more crucial than ever, and NPR and GBH serve as beacons of truth and reliability. But to continue to provide accurate and unbiased news, we look for your financial support. Right now, our goal is to receive 15 contributions in the next 6 minutes. Your financial support helps to combat misinformation and keep our communities and our country well informed. So we're looking for 15 contributions in the next 6 minutes. We're hoping you'll be one of those. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424 right now.
And when you support GBH today and today only, we will say thank you with our GBH belt bag. This is a perfect bag to keep your essentials, your phone, keys, wallet, secure and easily accessible. And the bag is black with the GBH 89.7 and NPR logos in white. So sign up as a sustaining member, $10 per month. You'll be supporting all of your listening here to Boston Public Radio and all the programs you enjoy here on GBH. Or you can give $120 all at once. Either way, that deadline is coming up at 2 o'clock. After that, the belt bag will not be available as our thanks for your contribution. Call 888-897-9424. You can also check out what the belt bag looks like when you give online at gbhnews.org.
Maeve was just mentioning that sustaining membership. That's when you give a monthly amount automatically out of your bank account or your credit card. It's a great way to give because you're always giving. Your membership is always current. I'm a sustainer in GBH. I love it so much because I don't have to think about it when I listen. I know that I'm supporting. I know that I'm doing my part. Join with me right now in becoming a sustainer. Go to gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And thank you so much. If you've already made your contribution, we are now looking for just 12 more people to give. 12 more people to give in the next just about 4 minutes now. That's what's needed to stay on track. Please contribute what you can to help pay for the news and information you can always trust and rely on. All gifts are welcome and truly do make a difference. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
Whenever you tune in, you hear the difference on GBH, the in-depth, unbiased news, thoughtful and civil conversations, stories that are told in a way that only GBH tells them. It truly is news that matters. If you've never given before, now is the time to invest in GBH. It's your support that ensures we can cover the issues, chase down the facts, and keep you up to date each and every day. Choose a monthly amount that works for you or give all at once. But we're looking for you to participate right now. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
You listen to Boston Public Radio because it keeps you informed on what's happening in our neighborhoods, in Boston, and across our state. Jim and Marjorie ask the questions you want answered by the people who make changes that affect your day-to-day life. That's why we're asking for your contribution right now. Support all that you get out of this program by calling 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
And remember, when you give right now with a gift of $10 a month or $120 all at once, we've got that fabulous belt bag for you. I'm so excited about this because it's a quick, great, easy way to carry those essentials with you whenever you're on the go. You can wrap it around your waist. You can sling it over your shoulder, wear it crossbody, whatever works for you. It's black and it has the GBH 89.7 and NPR logos in white on it. So you show off your support wherever you go. It's a great gift and it goes away at 2 o'clock. So if it's something you're looking forward to doing, do it now. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Thank you so much to Sally in Newburyport for making her contribution. We also heard from Margaret in Marshfield, and we heard from Sharon in Pepperell, who said, I love Jim and Marjorie. I trust the information from PBS. In these times, we all need factual information. Thank you so much, Sharon. Join everyone who's made their contribution by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
We're looking for 8 more people to give in just the next couple of minutes. That's what's needed for us to stay on track right now. Please contribute what you can to help pay for the news and information you can always trust and rely on here on GBH. All gifts are welcome. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
You'll be helping us reach our goal when you make that contribution, and you can take advantage of this very limited time offer of the GBH belt bag for your contribution of just $10 per month as a sustaining member, or a one-time gift of $120 all at once. This is going away at 2 o'clock this afternoon. After that, it will not be available for the rest of the membership drive. It's the perfect way to keep your essentials, your phone, keys, wallet, secure and easily accessible, and show off that you're a fan of GBH and NPR. Thank you so much. If you've already made that gift of support, if you have yet to do so, ask for the GBH belt bag as our thanks. 888-897-9424 or make your gift online. That's at gbhnews.org.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Lawrence General Hospital, now united with Holy Family Hospital to help build a robust regional healthcare system defined by a shared commitment to patient-centered care and medical excellence. More at lawrencegeneral.org. And Johnson & Wales University. From computer science to public health, students can develop professional networks and industry experience alongside their classroom education. More at jwu.edu.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News, what matters to you?
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. A spokesperson for the militant group Hamas says it's delaying the release of the next group of Israeli hostages scheduled for this Saturday. The military spokesman for Hamas's Al-Qassam brigades accuses Israel of violating the terms of a 6-week ceasefire by delaying the return of displaced Palestinians to the northern Gaza Strip. But Israel accuses Hamas of breaching the agreement. Hostage for prisoner exchanges are part of the ceasefire that is now in its 4th week. The New Mexico District Court has preemptively blocked the Trump administration from sending 3 Venezuelan men to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. NPR's Jimena Bustillo reports the decision comes as Trump is looking to send thousands of migrants to the U.S. detention facility.
3 Venezuelan men in the custody of federal immigration officials got a temporary restraining order to prevent them from being potentially moved to Guantanamo Bay. Their lawyer argued that because the 3 have similar characteristics to those the administration has flown to Guantanamo, meaning that they're also Venezuelan, they are requesting a block while they continue legal proceedings in New Mexico. Immigrant rights lawyers are raising the alarm over the administration's unprecedented use of the naval base in Cuba to house migrants that were on U.S. soil. They say moving people off the U.S. mainland can limit legal access and due process. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said the goal is to only hold people on the base for a short time before they're sent to another country. Jimena Bustillo, NPR News, Washington.
President Trump is threatening new tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. NPR's Scott Horsley reports rising metal prices are also putting pressure on the humble penny.
President Trump says he plans to announce a 25% tax on all imported steel and aluminum, extending a trade battle he launched during his first term in the White House. The move has the potential to boost domestic steel and aluminum makers while also raising costs for businesses and consumers that buy steel and aluminum, ranging from automakers to soda pop and beer drinkers. President Trump says he's directed the Treasury Department to stop minting new pennies. The government's been losing money on the coins, which each cost more than a penny to make. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Eagles fans celebrating a stunning victory at Super Bowl 59 last night. Philadelphia overcame Kansas City 40-22 and denied the 2-time winning Chiefs what could have been a historic three-peat. The Philadelphia Eagles win at the Superdome in New Orleans is the franchise's 2nd Super Bowl title. U.S. stocks are trading higher this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 67 points at 44,370. The S&P is up 34 points, or roughly 0.5%, and the Nasdaq has risen 212 points, now up more than 1%. You're listening to NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Local colleges are criticizing the Trump administration's move to limit federal funding for research overhead costs. Organizations that get funding from the National Institutes of Health can now spend just 15% of that money on things like labor, rent, and utilities. The rest has to go towards research itself. From our higher ed desk, GBH's Kirk Carapezza reports the change is taking effect today.
The decision could hamper research efforts across Massachusetts, with schools like MIT and Tufts saying the restriction would hit them hard. Ted Mitchell leads the American Council on Education. He says the funding cap will sabotage U.S. leadership on life-saving medical breakthroughs.
This is simply giving away our competitive advantage to China and other countries who are hot on our tail in biomedical research.
Harvard President Alan Garber is also slamming the decision, saying, quote, our nation's science and engineering prowess would be severely compromised. Kirk Carapezza, GBH News, 89.7.
Officials at Mass General Brigham say hundreds of employees will be laid off within the next 2 months. It's the largest layoff in the organization's history as the health system deals with anticipated financial shortfalls and operational challenges at its 12 hospitals. MGB is roughly 82,000 employees, making it one of the state's largest private employers. And while it's not known exactly how many people would be let go, officials did say that the target is to save at least $200 million a year, or about 2% of its salary and benefits costs. Some layoffs will take place this week and then again in March. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Indiana University, establishing the IU Launch Accelerator for Biosciences to drive healthcare discoveries and train the next generation of innovators. More at go.iu.edu/IULab.
Eastern Browdy, I am Marjorie Eek, and welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow we're going to be at the Boston Public Library with Mayor. No, she's going to be there on Wednesday.
No.
And I guess no one's going to be there but us tomorrow, Jim.
No, that is not. That is so
I'm only
not
kidding.
true.
John King is going to be there. We're going to have a lot of good guests tomorrow. However, Wednesday is going to be Michelle Wu. She's going to be with us from 11 to 12, taking our questions and yours. Hello again, Jim.
Beautifully done, Marjorie.
Thank you.
We're joined now in Studio 3 by Dan Primack. Dan is a business editor at Axios and author of the daily Axios Pro Rata newsletter. Dan, it's great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you very much for coming in, Dan. So, since you're the business guy, what do you hear in the business world about the early days of Trump with the tariffs, with Elon Musk and all the government agencies? What are you hearing?
I think it's changing a lot. So I was at this, the World Economic Forum, the Fancy People Davos thing a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, neat.
And there was enormous from the business world optimism, and leaving aside what people feel personally about Trump, versus Harris. There was a lot of kind of call them animal spirits. People were very excited. There was going to be lots of deals. There was going to be less regulation, lower either the same taxes or maybe lower corporate taxes. It has, and that was only 2 weeks ago. It has changed a little bit. I think a lot of these folks seem to kind of memory hole the chaos of the first administration and kind of forgot about it, or maybe thought that this was going to be more organized because, he already knew how the levers of power worked. But there's been obviously a ton of chaos and some intentional chaos, and they're kind of freaking out a little bit. I wrote this morning, merger activity, IPO activity is all lower than it was at this time last year. And what everyone was saying coming into the year was we were going to have booms. So I think people are still optimistic, but maybe more cautiously optimistic.
About what are they nervous and cautious?
Well, I mean, the tariff stuff for sure, and the possibilities of inflation. You've already seen some weaker consumer confidence than had been expected. So I think people really, they came in thinking they had certainty about what was coming, and I think are now questioning their assumptions.
I want to get back to Elon Musk in a second, Dan Primack, but I'm not clear how the tariff thing, other than fitting the tough guy mold that Trump has successfully created, how does that help him exactly in this country? I assume, well, you tell me how it helps him.
I mean, it helps him in part because he campaigned on this. He has made this argument, and he's not right about this, but he's made this argument over and over again that by putting tariffs on whatever it be, aluminum or steel or everything from Canada or everything from Mexico, that is thus money that the U.S. gets. And he says over and over, it is money that the other country pays the United States. Now, that's not true. It's not how tariffs work. Tariffs get paid by importers, and which means that either those costs get passed on to the consumer or the exporter takes a little bit less. Either way, China, Mexico, Canada, they never send money to the U.S. government. Trump had talked about this External Revenue Service. You don't need it because they don't send the money to us. The IRS can handle that.
But it seems to me that one thing in a decent percentage of cases you touched upon as one of the alternatives is it's a price raiser. It's a tax, as Kamala Harris unsuccessfully described it. And as Trump said the other day, either to Fox News or somebody, I was elected because of the price of eggs. Those were his words verbatim. The price of a lot of things is going to go up. And it's one thing to say I didn't lower prices on day one like I promised, but 3-6 months from now, if tariffs raise prices, it seems to me that's the one vulnerability he has.
It is. I mean, the argument he would make, if he was to make this cogently, or at least that his people or Scott Bessent would make, is yes, in the short term it would raise prices. There is a long-term argument that if you put on tariffs, it increases U.S. production of things, because instead of wanting to import lots of stuff, which is now more expensive, we will make more things. Or foreign companies will open factories in the United States to make them here. Thus, in the long term, it could be good for the U.S. economy. But that's a real long play. As you say, that's stuff that would take months, if not years, to get into effect.
Before we go into more substance, the fact you have not asked him, I just realized
what
about all the details about Davos. That is so up your alley.
Well,
how incredible is this thing?
I feel so pretentious talking about this.
Yes. Do tell us. How was the food? What was the
food was
China
delicious.
like?
I didn't have any cheese, which was sad. Everyone had lots of cheese. I had an insane amount of. You can't, like, every now and then when a vegetable shows up, everyone celebrates because there's almost no vegetables in this place. It's just a Swiss thing. It's fine. What's weird about Davos, and this is what I learned because I've avoided it my whole career, and I got sucked into going this year. Davos itself is like, among the Swiss, is a third or a fourth rate ski town. This isn't Aspen or Vail. This is, this is Wachusett. I'm sorry.
By the way, that was Dan Primack who said that.
That's okay.
It's a nice place, but it's not like, where you would think the rich and fancy go for vacation. So
it's not Snowbird and Alta.
Correct. It is not. It's fine. But it's incredibly inconvenient for everybody, and everyone complains about it. I know there's some folks trying to create U.S. alternatives. But look, everyone kind of in big business shows up there. There was a lot more tech people there. And then the conversation this year was really an AI conversation for the most part. Some Trump, because he was inaugurated on the first day of the event, but it was really an AI conversation.
Yeah. When you're talking about tariffs, which I really, a rudimentary understanding of economics is never my strong point. But the Chinese tariff seems to upset people a lot less when you hear things like that almost every drone and all the equipment for all the drones are made in China, those kinds of things that make you nervous. Or thinking back to the pandemic where we didn't have enough masks. And remember, we had to go get masks from China because they had masks. So it does seem that there's a big imbalance between us and them.
There is. There's a huge imbalance, and particularly on low-cost goods, right? There had been this $800 exclusion always for low-cost goods. So, for example, if you bought a shirt from Shein, it didn't hit. And then Trump said he was going to actually get rid of that exclusion, and then maybe it's coming back on. One thing that did come out of the pandemic, though, was a lot of companies, because they saw how reliant we were on China when it came to masks and lots of stuff in the supply chain, started reshoring stuff, not necessarily making them here, but making things in Vietnam or other Asian countries so that they weren't quite as dependent on a single country, because not that anything very good came out of the pandemic, but for that, it's dangerous just for any economy to be completely or so reliant on a single country in case they do something politically or there's a natural disaster or whatever it be.
Yeah. Well, you think about it, with drones and any kind of potential, not that we're looking for any kind of military action, but it does make you nervous.
Yeah. No, look, and the tariffs, we've had tariffs, obviously, on China in terms of steel and aluminum for years. Trump put them on. Biden kept them on. It's one of the reasons why we've had imports down for steel and aluminum for the last several years. But the place, and these tariffs, and who knows if these will go into effect, the place they're really going to hit is Canada and Mexico, because Canada is the number one exporter of these things to us.
When you say who knows if they're going to go into effect, obviously the 25% tariffs of a week or so ago didn't go into effect at the last minute. Is there a belief that he will claim another faux victory here and not make these things happen?
It's possible. Really, who knows? This gets floated out yesterday. And he also talked about these reciprocal tariffs on the EU. The EU came out this morning and said, all we've seen is the same thing you've all seen, which is the interview. It's not like we've had any communications from the Commerce Department or anything saying these are coming. He does like using these things as negotiating tactics, even if what you think he ultimately gets isn't terribly big. So, he does believe in tariffs, but he is very willing to not use them. At the same time.
You know what I loved? How we all found out later that really we weren't getting any concessions from Mexico because Mexico had sent troops to the border, thousands of troops, twice before, and this was the third time?
And the Canadians had agreed to what they agreed to do in December.
So it was a brilliant, once again, claiming something that wasn't true, and everyone believed it.
Do you think the 53% exactly who approve of him in that CBS News poll think he didn't get something new? I would suggest they think he's the greatest deal making part of your deal here.
That's what I'm saying when people are talking about this being a new McCarthy era, with everybody getting nervous about saying anything about Trump. You can't help but thinking that Roy Cohn was next to McCarthy, and Roy Cohn was, for a long time, next to Donald Trump.
Speaking of people too scared to say something, we have said only about 10,000 times to our food guy, Corby Kummer, who's on this pretty regularly, if business is so, or portions of the business community are so concerned about mass deportation, even though it hasn't happened. Why don't we hear from them? Why don't we hear from people who, whether it's the restaurant industry or farmers, who are hugely dependent on undocumented workers? Why is that? Business
leaders are legitimately terrified of Trump. And I can't believe I'm going to talk about Davos yet again. One thing, so I'll give an anecdote without saying the story. So the reason I was there was to do interviews on stage, and a speaker dropped, and we replaced him with a major healthcare CEO, big healthcare CEO who you know, or at least you know of the company. And we were going to talk about some pharma stuff. We were going to talk about bird flu. And I got a call about, 5 hours before he was supposed to come, saying, we just want to make sure you weren't going to ask anything about politics. I said, well, I'm going to have to ask something because you're a regulated industry, and RFK was, it hadn't gone through his hearings yet, but that was coming. I said, we're going to talk about it a bit. And I said, then we can't do this. I said, you're a publicly traded, I think, S&P 500 company. I'm not quite sure. Big company. Terrified. And again, he's going to have to answer this when they have shareholder calls and stuff like that, but they don't want any soundbite to show up that's going to, it's going to cause problems.
Because they're afraid of Donald Trump.
They're absolutely terrified. And by the way, they have a little bit of reason to, right? Trump is known to go after particular companies, particular CEOs. He does, run to some extent, the Justice Department, the FTC, or the FDA, depending on the company, which can impact these companies. Yeah, they are legitimately scared of him. A lot of them disliked the Biden regulations, but I didn't hear any who were actually scared of Biden. They're scared of Trump.
Before we take a break, I want to play some sound for you from Ed Markey, who was with us. Senator Markey was with us on Thursday last week, and he was talking about Trump, but then he also ended up talking about why Elon Musk was doing what Elon Musk was doing. Here's Senator Markey.
I'm going to vote against every one of Donald Trump's nominees. It's clear that they're part of a plan to put Trump psychopaths into every single agency in order to destroy them. And simultaneously, their goal is to loot Medicare, Medicaid, Affordable Care Act, education funding, to pay for the tax breaks for billionaires and millionaires in our country who were sitting right behind Trump at his inauguration.
And he went on to say he included a lot of the Elon Musk gutting that's going on. Do you subscribe to that notion?
I subscribe that what a lot of them are trying to do is, if not destroy, definitely. Look, I mean, the talk this week is about the Department of Education. Republicans have been running on, getting rid of the Department of Education for decades at this point. This just might be the first administration that actually tries to do it and wasn't just using it as a campaign talking point.
But do you subscribe? What I was asking is, do you believe that in part the goal is to save billions and billions and billions of dollars, not only to gut things that Donald Trump doesn't like, but to provide funding for tax cuts for those in the Republican Party in Congress who don't want to dramatically increase deficits?
On the tax cuts, absolutely, right. This is the thing that they want most of all, is to be able to extend those 2017 tax cuts, if not expand them. And they do have to somehow pay for them. It's not going to be politically possible, I don't think, for them to do that while absolutely blowing the deficit up.
We got to go to a break, but one of the things about gotten the Department of Education, I didn't realize, we were talking about this with Governor Healy last week, this assumption we're a wealthier state than many, and that if we lose all this federal money when in terms of K through 12 or special ed, that Massachusetts is going to make it up. She said that's not going to happen. We don't have that kind of money, and we're a wealthy state. A lot of these red states that are getting all the money from the federal government because they're poor states, they have special ed kids in K through 12 schools too. So you wonder, I mean, if down the road that may not look so good to all those Republican states that have been trying to get rid of the Department of Education.
Yeah, it depends on how it gets done, right? I mean, the argument you hear from the White House is what we want to do is give basically block grants to the states, and then they can disperse it the same way, so the amount of money would be the same. It's just how it gets. But again, devil's in the details, and that's often so true with big things that Trump does or things that Elon's doing.
Okay, we are talking to Dan Primack from Axios. He's going to stay with us after this quick pledge break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio. I should say the daily Axios Pro Rata newsletter. Is that how you say it?
Close enough.
What is it? Rata?
Pro Rata. Yep.
Rata. Oops.
I said Rata too.
Okay, we goofed that up.
Two fools.
Okay, anyway, we're going to be right back and try to get our act together. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Live, local, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
During the last break, Marjorie said to me, do you think it would be helpful if I were to wear the fanny pack during the show. Now, unfortunately, we're not on camera during the pledge break. But if you were to put on the fanny pack, and I see it, thank you very much. And if you were to put it on during the regular segments of the show,
I would look really
maybe,
cool.
Turn around a couple
High
of
fashion.
times. I think it would increase our numbers extraordinarily well.
Right on Vogue magazine.
No, it's a good-looking thing. A belt bag, as some people call it. A fanny pack, as some other people call it. I will call it nothing because I will not be wearing it, but I know a lot of you will. It is of great value. I don't mean of great value monetarily, but it is very useful, and you can stuff a lot of things in there, as Marjorie's been saying. It is black with the GBH 89.7 and NPR logos in white, so it's quite fashionable as fanny packs go. They as they go. It disappears at 2 o'clock. So if you want one of these things, it's $10 a month or $120 all at once. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And actually, it took me an hour and a half to say the following. Hopefully, the fanny pack or any other enticement, as Marjorie calls it, is not why you're giving. You're giving because you actually value what you get from our colleagues here at the station. And if you do value that, which I assume you do, you just call 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org, and give whatever you can possibly afford.
Okay, some people that have already given today, whether they got the fanny pack or not, I don't know, but Nicole from Westford very nicely said, public radio more important now than ever. Thank you, GBH, for providing us with free, honest, and informative reporting. And there's Kaylee from Whitman who said, your work is thought-provoking, trustworthy, and necessary. I'm so very appreciative of the hope and strength that your voices bring to listeners. So a lot of people that do donate leave these messages, and we love to read them. They make us feel good, and it's very nice of you. But if we didn't have these pledge breaks 3 or 4 times a year, then we would have commercials every day, which can last like 6 or 7 minutes. You'd have them 3 times an hour, and it's a lot. We don't do that here, and it makes, I think, to me anyway, a big difference. And I'm sure it does to you too. So it's a very crucial time for National Public Radio. We hope if you like what you hear here, you are in a position to throw us some money. Here's the number, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. More than 70% of the budget here comes from listener support, most of it through small gifts of $5 a month, $10 a month, or like $15 a month all at once. So we really appreciate whatever you can give. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back, says Jim, to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're continuing our conversation with Axios' Dan Primack.
So what about these tax cuts? What is going to happen with the Trump tax cuts?
I mean, the first question is there going to be one bill or 2 bills, right? And that's this giant difference between the House and the Senate. The Senate seems to want 2 bills, one doing border security and energy and lots of other things, and then get to taxes. And the House and Mike Johnson wants one giant, as he says, Trump says, one beautiful bill. So that's got to get decided first. And obviously the House can only afford to lose, 2 people or 3 people out of their caucus. But look, I mean, what's going to happen in the big picture is most likely the tax cuts are going to get extended. The ones from 2017, which is for individuals. The corporate ones are already, or they don't have to be extended, but those might get lowered a little bit more. But I mean, maybe you two disagree. I think they're going to get extended. Look at who's in charge.
I don't think there's any question they're going to get extended. But in a minute, you're going to have 30 seconds to attempt to explain the carried interest tax loophole. And if you do, you're going to get some prize. But I want to talk about the other things he promised. They may be unaffordable, but for all of us who say Trump's tax cuts are always geared to the wealthiest Americans, and I think that plays with the public, if he is able to eliminate taxation even to a modest degree, on the 3 things he's talked about, Social Security, overtime, or tips, the popularity of that, it seems to me, with the middle class in this country, would explode. Does he have a shot in hell of achieving any of those 3 goals?
I think he actually has a shot at it. The question, but this goes back to the pay-fors, right? And this goes back almost to tariffs, right? Because Trump has given 2 arguments for why he wants tariffs. One is because of national security and long-term economic whatever and trade deficits. The other is to pay for the tax cuts or to bring in revenue, which would pay for the tax cuts. And if he doesn't do these tariffs on Canada and Mexico, et cetera, then he needs some money to come in to do tips, to do Social Security. And there's still this giant question of how you fill that pot.
Yeah, that seems like it would just be so much money. If people aren't paying taxes on Social Security, that's huge.
It's the Social Security one's enormous. The tips one is huge. I will say on the tips one, there's been a lot of people who have joked, well, we'll just all, recategorize how we get our money as tips. We don't have salaries. We get tipped. Although there was a bill on this that Ted Cruz put out last year, which was at least put some meat on the bone, which didn't let you kind of get around it quite so easily. But look, the math doesn't work. There needs to be some revenue that comes in to pay for this, and they haven't yet come up with the answer to that, and that's going to be part of the fight.
And I wasn't kidding before. Can you do 30 seconds, explain what the carried interest tax loophole is?
Sure. Carried interest is basically the profit that investment fund managers get. So I'll give this quick example. I have a venture capital fund. I invest in something, and it's successful in the long term. I get 20% of that profit. The other 80% goes to my investors. That could be endowments or pensions or whatever. On my 20% right now, I get to pay capital gains tax, which is a lower rate than what my ordinary rate would be. The argument here, though, is it was never my money. This wasn't like me, Dan Primack, invested in Google stock and got a profit and then should pay capital gains because I put money at risk. The fund managers don't put anything at risk. Someone else does. They're basically getting a fee for service. But right now, it's taxed as a lower rate. Obama tried to get rid of this. Trump tried to get rid of this. Biden tried to get rid of this. They have all failed. It's not probably an enormous amount of money. It's definitely not the sort of money when we talk about taxes on Social Security, but it is this fundamentally unfair tax loophole that I called it a movie monster the other day because everyone tries to kill it and it slinks into the background, but it keeps going.
You know what really was upsetting to me or anybody who's thinking about getting an electric car, that I didn't know that we've had all these $5 billion to help build chargers, and we've only built 55 chargers. I don't know what we've been doing all this time. But in any case, the Trump administration wants to halt any more building of these chargers. So this is going to put a real... But
this goes back to confusion. So I am someone who has an electric car, so I would like to see some more chargers around. There's lots of confusion, though, because this is money from the Inflation Reduction Act, right? And a lot of these grants have already gone out the door. Now, you're right, Marjorie. A lot of the states haven't spent the money yet, but they've been getting the land. They've been getting the electrical set up, et cetera. And there are questions, at least as of yesterday. Well, are the grants that have already been given, is that money still going to be good? Are we still going to be able to get that money? Are we not? And there's not really answers right now to any of that.
Well, Markey answered that question. Markey's position, I know the Democrats believe this, that money that is obligated, whatever that means, is gettable, even if you have to sue to get it. And this would fall into that category. Some of that, would it not?
It would, but you'd have to, as you say, you'd have to sue to get it.
And, he talks about the EV mandate. And when he talks about getting rid of the EV mandate, he's talking about the goals that the Biden administration set in terms of 50% of the cars not being fossil fuel propelled, that sort of thing, by a date certain. But it seems to me that this is another gift to Elon Musk. He's got the chargers, and so getting rid of charger funding is a killer for a lot of his competitors and doesn't affect Elon Musk at all.
The only reason there's two things that affect Musk. One, any sort of trade war with China, because that's a big piece of Musk's business. He has a big business. The other thing that's interesting is, though, Elon Musk kind of gutted his own supercharger unit last year, Tesla's supercharger unit. And a lot of people thought that was maybe because there were going to be this network of other EV chargers that went around the country. So I don't know what he will do about that. There's a lot of Tesla chargers, but they're more prevalent, say, in Boston than they are elsewhere.
Right, but I thought he was also trying to make them, he had cut deals to make them available to non-Teslas, which meant more money for him, and I would assume even more attractive now if there's not going to be additional public funding for it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so can you do a Nostradamus thing for the last minute? It's 2 years from now. It's midterm election time. Based on everything we've talked about, everything you know, what's the state of Trump's economy and where is he on some of these critical issues?
I think Trump's economy might be in a little bit of trouble. I don't mean recession sort of trouble. I just mean I could see a downturn if for no other reason. Economies have cycles, and we have been on a. And there's a guy named Howard Marks who runs an investment firm called Oaktree, and he argues that the question of whether we're going to have a downturn depends on whether you believe the COVID recession was a legitimate recession or if it wasn't. Yeah. If it was a real recession, then you know what, we've got runway historically. But if it wasn't a real recession, if it was just this blip, we're due.
What do you think it was?
I don't think it was a real recession. I mean, it was a blip, and a blip for a very real reason, right? But the COVID recession wasn't because there were economic problems which came to bear. It was something completely different than that.
Companies all shut down. We all just stay home.
Unlike what we saw, say, in 2001 when the economy was already starting to struggle, and then 9/11 exacerbated things. Everything was going gangbusters economically when COVID showed up.
What kind of EV do you have?
Ford Mach-E. It is a good car, but it has terrible range.
Oh. Well, there you go. Don't ask me what I have because
Jim has a Tesla.
I do.
He does. He loves it.
But you know what I say?
I've heard good things about the Hyundai one.
I have to.
That's the one I was looking at, but I don't know now.
Dan, it's great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. Be well.
Thank you very much.
How do we
Dan.
subscribe to your thing, by the way?
Just Axios.com/newsletters.
Great.
Okay, I'm going to try to get this correct this time. Dan Primack, business editor at Axios, author of the Daily Pro Rata?
Rata.
Got it.
No.
Rata?
Yeah.
Soft A.
Yeah, that's right, Jim.
Okay.
Daily Pro Rata with Dan Primack.
No, I just said Rata. It's Rata.
It's Rata.
Rata.
That's how I pronounce it the way Marjorie does.
Okay, fine.
Admittedly, I haven't looked it up. So.
Well, he's the guy that does
Yeah, I
it, so I
guess
think we're going to
that's
take
a very
his
good
word for
point.
it, Jim. Okay, coming after a quick break.
Wait, Axios.com/newsletters, and then you subscribe to that baby.
Okay.
Whatever it's called.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Coming up after this quick break, Boston Medical Center's Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett. She's here to talk about Elon Musk slashing medical research money, what that's going to mean for the healthcare industry around here, the harms of marijuana, and the gutlessness of the American Medical Association. She's next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News.
You know that interview you just heard? Only on Boston Public Radio can you hear conversations like that every day, commercial-free. Instead, we ask you to step up and show your support every now and then. So pitch in at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Okay, can I read some of these comments here from people, there's new comments, people who made contributions. Listen to this, Marjorie. Sarah and Newton, so grateful for Marjorie and Jim. Thank you. Both of you make my day better every day. Lila in Medford, I love Jim and Marjorie. Diane and Chelsea, Jim and Marjorie make the news bearable with their touches of everyday joy. I'm not experiencing any
Touches
joy.
of everyday joy?
About there. But maybe Marjorie has some joy.
I'm trying to be joyful. You're not helping me at all, Jim.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to help a little bit more. If you want to make a contribution and join those group, and by the way, if you take an extra 30 seconds and write a comment, you don't have to, but it makes us feel really good. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. The enticement or gift today is this belt bag, fanny pack. Marjorie was going to say you can also wear it around your neck as a necklace if you choose. I say
no, you don't. You put the strap over your shoulder and you sling it across your body.
Oh, it's like a shoulder belt
It's kind of
bag.
like a pocketbook.
Shoulder.
Yeah,
thing.
it's a shoulder thing, which is probably the preferable way to wear it.
Whatever.
Then it's not a fanny pack.
Okay, good. It's $10 a month or $120 all at once. That deal for this GBH belt bag, fanny bag disappears at 2 o'clock. So if you're interested, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org, Marjorie.
Yeah, we very much appreciate people that take the time to donate and to support us because, as I always say, more than 70% of our budget comes from modest donations from our generous listeners. And we are, Jim and I are on 15 hours a week, but the station is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there's a lot of programming all day, all night, and all weekend long. And it's an expensive operation to put on. So if you like what you hear here, I mean, people are saying these lovely things about GBH, NPR plus Jim and Marjorie, an island of hope in our current sea of despair. That's from Karina in Westport. So I like to think that we're doing that. Anyway, here's the number, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marge Regan and Jim Browdy bringing you joy. We're live in Studio 3, streaming at youtube.com. That was very sweet. I'm not making fun of that person. /GBH News. We're at the library tomorrow, and the mayor is with us at the library on whatever that is, Wednesday, 11 to 12. Joined in Studio 3 by Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett, Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation in the Department of Family Medicine at Boston Medical Center, Associate Professor at the BU Chobanian and Avedisian School of Medicine, and associate at Harvard Center for Primary Care, and a Health Innovator Fellow at the Aspen Institute. Doctor, it's good to see you.
Wonderful to see both.
So when I heard about these National Institute of Health cuts, billions in biomedical funding, I thought, of course, a lot of what makes us money here in Massachusetts. What is this going to mean for patients and for those biomedical research firms?
Yeah, so I thank you for opening up the segment to talk about this. So late Friday night, NIH announced that it will have a 5% cap on all indirect costs that will go for all biomedical research. And I think it's really important for listeners to understand what indirect versus direct means, because I think there's a lot of conflation of the facts, and people are thinking we're just cutting the fat out of the budget. So when somebody gets a grant from the NIH, some of the money goes towards the direct researcher, the things in the lab, the laboratory equipment that you need. The indirect costs, however, are required for research in order to ensure that your research has a place to be done, right? So it actually pays for facility fees. It
like the
ensures
rent.
Literally the rent.
Yeah.
All that it takes to conduct research. On top of that, it pays for people who are going to ensure that this is done safely and follows all of the protocols. So it gives jobs to many people around biomedical research institutions. So a cut down to 15% cuts biomedical research at its knees, because this is about a quarter of what most institutions are currently getting. And as a result, we're going to have massive cuts in things like cancer, all kinds of innovations and breakthroughs, which we know we desperately have needed. And we're going to have massive job losses, and this is going to deeply impact patients.
And it's also a disproportionate share of the pain is going to be visited on places like Massachusetts, I assume, that do a ton of this work.
Absolutely. But this is not just Massachusetts. This is going to affect red states and blue states. It will affect people and institutions across the country.
You know what's incredible? I mean, we all know people in our lives that are dealing with cancer. And what's incredible when you talk to people about their treatments, they're talking about things that I'd never heard of.
That's correct.
Especially a lot of us have friends that have breast cancer. The advancements in breast cancer that were like not there 2 years ago. I mean,
and that is secondary to the amazing support of NIH research.
Yeah.
And our amazing scientists who are able to do their work as a result of NIH grants. So I am very sympathetic in understanding where there are extra dollars that may not be necessary that are being spent. But in this case, the indirect costs are actually an essential part of the way that biomedical research is conducted.
We've spoken about RFK Jr., so we don't need to talk about the outrage of an anti-vax.
Yep.
What's the difference between Medicaid and Medicare kind of nominee is the only thing that is more outrageous. When I read the story from The Hill that was printed in the Globe this weekend about organizations like the American Medical Association, the American Pediatric Association, taking no position on his nomination, I assume, just like we discussed with Dan Primack and business leaders, because they're terrified of the wrath of Donald Trump. I mean, how do you as a doctor feel that the organization that represents tens of thousands of your organizations that represent are silent in the face of this kind of threat?
Yeah, the quote, I think, in the article that you're referring to, one of the heads of the American Academy of Pediatrics says, we're pediatricians, not politicians. Unfortunately, the way that medicine is happening right now, you have to be political. Not political with a capital P. You don't need to be in a leadership position, but you need to be aware of the politics that are shaping the way that we can deliver care. And the fact that the AAP and the AMA, so the AMA has come out for the last decade talking about vaccine hesitancy, how do we increase trust in vaccines, and now they're not coming out against somebody like RFK Jr. So there have been many organizations where individual physicians are coming out and speaking out. Dr. Bill Cassidy, who is a Senate, was the twist. So that was very disheartening.
Very painful.
He was basically the deciding vote. And
he talked about the 18-year-old patient that died because he didn't have a hepatitis B vaccine.
Yeah, so he was very clear. So I actually have had lovely conversations with Dr. Cassidy in the past one-on-one. I think he's a terrific person. He was very clear and measured about the role of vaccines, and the vaccines do save lives, but ultimately came out after some agonizing hours and many discussions with Trump and his team that he thought that RFK Jr. could actually lead the CDC and NIH and bring a great voice to it. So, the question again is, without being aware of the politics that shape this, I think that medicine and leaders in medicine are going to be blindsided by what needs to be done.
Well, I don't know if it was Cassidy, but at least some Republicans who voted for RFK Jr. in committee or are going to vote for him at 10 a.m. tomorrow in the full Senate have used the absence of opposition from these organizations to say, well, if they're not opposed, if he's
silence
not opposed
is consent.
Exactly.
That is the word that they have said.
So they're essentially not only not opposing, but they're giving ammunition to the supporters of this guy who is wildly unqualified. I assume everybody would agree.
We need to understand, for those of us in medicine and those of us who care about the outcomes of our families and our children and our communities, that you cannot be silent, because silence is seen as consent in this case, and it needs to be a push by all large organizations to be really clear about what's at risk.
We're talking to Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett.
So we've read so many stories about primary care physicians really struggling. Another one, burnout and workplace issues, written by Kara Miller a few days back. Is anything happening on this front? I mean, we know that it's a mess.
There's hopeful news that's coming out of Massachusetts, and I know that you have had some conversations around this as well. I actually, myself and a few colleagues, worked very hard on the legislation that was just passed, where we're going to have a primary care task force that's going to be working with the state legislation in order to inform what is needed in Massachusetts for primary care.
Didn't they actually do some on this international physician deal and make it easier?
Then that's a very important second piece that I know you had spoken to Michael Curry about a couple of weeks ago, who did a great coverage on that.
People who are doctors in their home countries who come here, who because of whatever hurdles you have to go over, were not able to practice medicine as fully as they did before. That'll be streamlined.
Yes. But the bigger issue is, we have some solutions in the short term. What are the longer term solutions? And that's what we really need to look at. Jessica Bartlett from the Globe has been doing fantastic coverage on this, and I'm really grateful to her for her voice. She has very much demonstrated that 41% of people in Massachusetts cannot access a primary care physician. Incredible. And I will say that personally, my panel is overfull. Capped, and I'm still taking, favors because people have nowhere to go.
So if you can't get a primary care physician, what does that mean?
It means you go to the emergency room. You not only on a personal level is it terrible in terms of, addressing what you need addressed, but it's terrible for taxpayers, right? So we're not paying primary care enough to stay sustainable. We're not thinking through insurance issues, which mean that, we as primary care physicians have to spend a lot of time thinking about prior authorizations and all of that. And rather, we're spending our money on the downstream consequences of people not having primary care. And people are getting more sick, and chronic diseases are going, festering. And as a result, ultimately people are going to need higher levels of care. And it is, we've talked about it again and again, but I am very grateful that Massachusetts, and we know that the governor finally, she addressed it in the State of the State in January. So it's a really good time of momentum.
Do you ever think of quitting? You're one of the most committed people I've ever met in any field. Do you ever think of quitting?
I have really hard days where I think, why is this so hard? My patients always keep me going, but it is it's extraordinarily difficult. And what's more heart-wrenching is watching my colleagues who I see suffering so much.
We're talking with Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett. We're going to keep talking with her after this quick break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support. So please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
Listen to this one. This is a text message. I already donated last Friday. $120 is the second Boston Public Radio donation. Jim and Marjorie is the best daytime national political commentary form in the country. How about that, Jim? I live in Marin County, California, a member of KQED, but it was my daughter, who's in her second year at Brandeis, who connected me to your program.
Wow.
How about that one? That was a very nice one.
Nice.
And then,
You know what I think they need?
What?
A belt bag.
They need a belt
I really
bag.
think they
well,
do.
somebody pointed out that nobody wears the belt bags as belt bags on your belly or belt bags on your fanny anymore because they wear them over their shoulder and they sling across your body, and it's kind of like a shoulder bag.
I'm not doing that
but
either.
it's slung across the front of your body.
But you should.
It might look a little bit better on you that way.
Okay.
And then we have another one. I donated online before your fund drive even began.
Wow.
And the only reason I did donate was because of you and me, Jim.
Oh, my God.
I love every aspect of their program, and it's made even more enjoyable because of them. I feel ridiculous reading some of these, but
You want to
let me
give
tell
the number or what?
I take them all home and I read them endlessly at night. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Okay, so today, the enticement, I know I say all the time, as Marjorie says, and it is, nobody calls it enticement.
Fanny pack.
Except they're fanny pack or belt bag, Marjorie,
bag.
to you, or shoulder bag.
Mhm.
$10 a month or $120 all at once, and you get this thing. It's got an 89.7 GBH, an NPR logo, whatever. You stuff a lot of stuff in there, and you don't have to have stuff. I hate having stuff in my pockets. You hate having stuff in your pockets?
Hate it.
Hate it. So the belt bag does the thing. Deadline's 2 o'clock, and if you want that, and even if you don't want it, if you want to contribute to what it is that our colleagues do wonderfully here, it's 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're live in Studio 3 with Boston Medical Center's Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett.
So we've learned recently that no amount of alcohol is good for you, and alcohol can cause cancer and other bad medical outcomes. Now, this story in the New York Times says that marijuana dependence linked to higher risk of deaths. I guess that means if you have something called cannabis use disorder. What is that, and why do people die?
So this actually, the New York Times article came after an article in JAMA was published looking at 2 Canadian studies that just came out. And so in Canada, unlike here, everybody, sort of 99% of the population is on one electronic medical record. So it's much easier to do cohort analysis. In other words, you can study population data much more easily than you can here. And they looked at what they call cannabis use disorder, which you had mentioned, which is basically people still using cannabis, even if it's kind of wrecking their lives socially, physically. And they looked at 2 different sets of outcomes. One is they looked at mortality, risk of mortality, and they found that there was an increase of a 3.5-fold risk increase of death 5 years after somebody was diagnosed with cannabis use disorder. Looking at, so again, this is population studies. So they were looking at people who had come into the emergency rooms and then kind of looking at what happened to them, 5 years out. So this is not correlative. We're not saying that one causes the other, but we're seeing that there's perhaps, some sort of connection between the 2 of them.
And what I wasn't sure about, does this mean that you get like lung cancer from the marijuana, or is it that you have kind of a crazy lifestyle and you may be doing a lot of other dangerous things, or we don't know?
So they tried to match it as best as they could for age and gender and other pieces. But to your exact excellent point, Marjorie, is that there are pieces that they can't match perfectly. So is it a chicken or egg kind of thing? And yet it's important to recognize that the cannabis that is now out in the markets and is legalized in a lot of places is much stronger than what was out in the 1960s and 1970s. And people, sort of saw as no big deal. The second part of the study, very briefly, was looking at risk of psychosis and schizophrenia. And they found that while schizophrenia sort of remained level in the years between when cannabis wasn't legal to when it was legal, we did see psychosis go up during that time when people had more access to it, but in particular in young men. So why? They postulate, and we know that young people, their frontal lobe, their brain is still forming, and we know there's a risk of psychosis in that age. So again, we see a correlation, but we don't see necessarily a causation. But it's clearly a place for more study.
I didn't think Marjorie's point was that excellent, actually. I thought it was
you wanting to jump in there.
It was adequate, but it wasn't great.
Before we leave this, though, some of us are old enough to remember that the marijuana when it wasn't very strong. So you'd have 15 hits off the same joint with your little high school or college friends.
Yeah.
Now you take one hit and you're high. So it may be more, dangerous in terms of the highness, but it certainly isn't more dangerous in terms of the breathing because you're not taking 20 hits, you're taking one hit.
We're not looking at lung cancer outcomes, things like that. It is to the point of the researchers, it is in fact a different drug
the power
than what
of
we
it.
used to know.
Okay.
Can I just read some stats that are stunning to me in this New York Times piece based on the study? Recent research suggests 3 in 10 cannabis users will develop cannabis use disorder. That, to me, is huge.
They have a great thing online. You can look to see if you have it.
Is that based on what criteria?
You answer these questions
okay.
about your relationship with marijuana.
Listen to this. And cannabis use disorder, again, 3 out of 10 marijuana users have it, is about half as dangerous as opioid addiction, which is, to me, a big number, and slightly less dangerous than alcohol use disorder, meaning it's really...
it's not a small deal.
And it's not just because of that, whatever you mentioned before about the unified system.
Yeah.
It's because federal regulations prohibited us from doing decent. I mean, it's still is it still a Schedule 1 drug? I know Biden proposed changing it, but I don't think that happened. Did it?
Correct.
Okay, so it's the same as heroin according to the federal stuff. So it was almost impossible for research institutes to do a decent amount of work on this. So we knew what the hell we were getting. Is that true or
no? Great question. I don't think I know the answer. That's also a great question. You're equal now. You also have
equal.
That's check plus.
Okay. But the bottom line is it's not as harmless as a lot of us were suggesting.
We don't do enough research, and I think we, in particular, need to think about our youth.
Yeah, well, you can see that because don't men in general develop marijuana or no marijuana, those kinds of schizophrenia things later in life? It'd be like they're 20 or 21 as opposed to women who are younger, I think. Am I right about that?
Schizophrenia generally hits young adults. Yeah. But again, this research was really looking at psychosis in young men.
Okay.
During the same time that a lot of these things show themselves.
So I'm out of excellent questions. So can you bring up what's going on Beacon Hill with this abortion legislation?
This is to eliminate any restrictions on the third trimester abortions. What is it?
Yes. So it is not passed. It is currently in the House, and it's legislation recommending that women who are 24 weeks or above are still able to have a legal abortion. So there's 9 other states in the United States of America that do this, that have this legislation. We would be joining them. And the idea, first of all, this is incredibly rare that women get abortions so late in their
84%
pregnancy.
in all of 2023 in Massachusetts.
84 people, not 84%.
84. I'm sorry. 84 people.
Like 1% or something. It's tiny.
Half of 1%.
Half of 1%.
Yes. So it is, and you have to imagine that this is an extreme circumstance when women are having to go through this tormenting decision. So usually it's for, the knowing that the fetus won't survive or some other extreme example. And in the past, what's happened is doctors have had to be on the hook with knowing exactly when 24 weeks was. And so it's allowing doctors to not have to play Russian roulette with the exact day of pregnancy.
I mean, it's important that people know, as you said, these things that Republicans were saying, you can kill the baby on the delivery table and you can have an abortion the day
Donald
before
Trump
the baby is born.
In the campaign.
He did say that. And this is not because you decided at 7 months you don't want to be pregnant anymore. This is because
this
people
is
get
horrible,
these tests.
horrible decisions that people have to
Or
make.
there are barriers to access, like you're a domestic violence survivor. There are a lot of reasons.
There are
why-
a lot of reasons.
These
These late
something-
term are usually things that there's some sort of fetal anomaly
Yeah.
that is discovered later in the pregnancy.
And I think that a lot of people aren't aware. Now they do these 20-week, very detailed tests on a lot of pregnancies. So women are finding out at 20 weeks, going along thinking everything was fine. That woman in Texas, she's the one that found out she had a baby that was not going to survive at 20 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is pretty, and it was a wanted pregnancy too, and she had to go through hell.
I can speak from being with people in this heartbreaking decision that there's absolutely no doctor and there's no patient that wants to go through this, but this bill allows for those very, very, very small percentage of people who need it not to be breaking the law.
And have to go fly,
travel
airplane, go
far
somewhere,
away.
which is very expensive. I think that woman in Texas talked about
That
it
is
cost her a lot of
exactly
money.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
Doctor, it's nice to see you.
Always
As
wonderful.
Thank you
so much. Be well.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We really appreciate talking to you. We've been speaking with Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett, Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at the Department of Family Medicine at Boston Medical Center, and Associate Professor at Boston University's Chobanian and Avedisian School of Medicine, and an Associate at Harvard Center for Primary Care, plus a Health Innovator Fellow at the Aspen Institute. You are one busy woman here, let me tell you that. Coming up to the 1 p.m. news, we're going to speak with the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett G. Price III. They are back for All Revved Up. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. He gets us ads about Jesus and money for religious schools coming out of public tax dollars. Plus, the podcast, Jim, it is back. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
And we are here now during our winter membership drive to raise the money needed to pay for the commercial-free news and entertainment programs that you rely on. It's easy to do at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424. I'm Maeve Buckley, and I'm joined by Melissa Jones.
To stay on track right now, we're looking for 14 people to give in the next 5 minutes. GBH and NPR play a vital role in delivering trustworthy and important news that you can rely on. By giving now, you help ensure that quality journalism prevails over fake news. Please make your contribution now. Be one of those 14 people in the next 5 minutes to join in. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Is GBH your go-to station in the afternoon? Maybe you're at work and have a short period of time for lunch. You turn to 89.7 GBH to enrich that time, making each moment a bit more interesting and entertaining. With each new story and conversation, you're discovering something new, and your time is that much more valuable. We're able to be your lunchtime companion because of listener support. So make your gift right now. Help keep GBH in your home for the afternoon and for inspiration. 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
You might have heard Jim and Marjorie talking about the great GBH belt bag. That is our thank you to you right now up until 2 o'clock. Today, when you give $10 a month or $120 all at once, this bag is fantastic. You can wear it around your waist if you want, but a lot of people are slinging it across their body like a crossbody bag. It's just the right size for your phone, your keys, your wallet. Keep it up against your body so it's safe and secure. You don't set it down somewhere, which is what I always do. It's a black bag with the GBH and NPR logos in white, so you can show off to everybody that you're smart and supporting news that matters. You can get yours before 2 o'clock. If you give now at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Thanks to folks like Beverly in Watertown and Eileen in Acton. We are that much closer to hitting this goal. We are now down to just 9 more people we're looking to hear from in the next just a couple minutes here up to the top of the hour. That's what's needed to stay on track. So please contribute what you can. Help pay for the news and information you can always trust and rely on here. All gifts are welcome and help keep us on track to meet our overall goal for this winter membership drive. 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
GBH's most important source of funding is listener contributions, so your donation is more important than ever. We know not everyone can give right now, but if you have the means, we would love for you to make a contribution right now in the amount that works just right for your budget. Give what feels good to you. Your support will help us maintain our service to you at a time when it is needed the most. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Thank you so much if you've made that gift of support. We heard from Jan in Plymouth who says, I've been addicted to NPR for 50 years, moved here from Ohio, and have fallen in love with Marjorie and Jim. Can't make it through the day without them. Thank you for keeping us all sane. Well, thank you, Jan. You can join Jan by making your gift at 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
And make sure you give now at $10 a month or $120 before 2 o'clock. You get that great the belt bag that you can crossbody and carry all of your essentials with you. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424. Do it now so it doesn't go away at 2 o'clock and you don't get yours. Give now and thank you.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Comcast Business, committed to providing connectivity for your business with network and cybersecurity solutions. Comcast Business, powering possibilities. Restrictions apply. To learn more, you can call or visit comcastbusiness.com. And the Massachusetts Historical Society, presenting the Making History Gala with author Nathaniel Philbrick on March 11th at the Fairmont Copley Plaza. Tickets at masshist.org/gala.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News, what matters to you?
Radio 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The head of the Independent Federal Office of Special Counsel is suing the Trump administration for allegedly firing him unlawfully. Hampton Dellinger, a Biden appointee, said in his lawsuit filed today that he can only be removed by the president for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. The lawsuit was first reported by Politico. Elon Musk and his oversight of President Trump's entity known as the Department of Government Efficiency are hitting their first legal roadblocks. Saturday, a federal judge temporarily barred Musk's team from accessing Treasury Department records, including Social Security numbers. Musk is now calling for the judge's impeachment. Here's NPR's Luke Garrett.
The tech magnate turned special government employee is calling a New York federal judge corrupt for getting in his way. Musk says the Treasury Department agreed to let Doge access their taxpayer data to look out for waste and fraud. The federal judge temporarily blocked this sharing agreement, saying it risks, quote, irreparable harm. In a social media post shared by Musk, Vice President J.D. Vance said, quote, judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power, end quote. The Constitution establishes three separate but co-equal branches of government, the legislative, executive, and judicial. This judicial branch is responsible for deciding whether actions taken by people or the government are legal. A hearing on Doge's access to Treasury data is set for this Friday. Luke Garrett, NPR News, Washington.
Now to the Middle East, where aid allowed into Gaza has increased since a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas took effect last month. But aid officials say it's not nearly enough. Jordan has begun flying in medical supplies, not just dropping it as in previous airlifts, but actually landing helicopters in Gaza. NPR's Jana Raff was on one of the flights.
We've just landed in Gaza, not very far into Gaza, just a few hundred feet beyond the fence. Israel does not allow foreign journalists in, but we've come in on this Jordanian Royal Air Force flight that's delivering aid. It's an airlift they've been doing for more than a week because there's so many obstacles to driving in aid by land, even though there's now a ceasefire. Coming into land, there are a lot of destroyed buildings, rubble, skeletons of buildings. Just down the road, we can see trucks that are presumably waiting to load up with these supplies. Jana Raff, NPR News, Gaza.
When it comes to the Israel-Hamas ceasefire, new complications are arising. A spokesperson for the militant group Hamas said that it would delay the release of the next group of Israeli hostages scheduled for this Saturday, accusing Israel of violating the terms of the deal. In a statement, Israel's defense minister said that Hamas's announcement was a complete violation of the ceasefire agreement and the hostage release deal. U.S. stocks are trading higher this hour. The Dow is up 119 points. The S&P has risen 39, and the Nasdaq is now up 220 points, or more than 1%. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. 5 people who were injured after 2 Green Line trains collided in Somerville this weekend are all out of the hospital. We have more from GBH's Jeremy Siegel.
Federal transportation officials are investigating the latest safety incident on the T, with findings expected within 30 days. The 5 people hurt in the crash, 4 operators and 1 passenger, have all been released from the hospital. And Green Line trains are now running as usual after shuttle buses had replaced service between North Station and the Medford Tufts stop. This weekend's crash follows a Green Line derailment in October that left 7 people injured. Jeremy Siegel, GBH News 89.7.
Local colleges are slamming the Trump administration's move to cap federal funding for research overhead costs. The National Institutes of Health says only 15% of federal money put toward medical research can be spent on things like utilities and support staff. Experts say the decision that's taking effect today could put a major drain on research in Massachusetts. Ted Mitchell leads the American Council on Education. He says the Trump administration's decision suggests they don't believe there's anything worthwhile in academia.
They're wrong. Higher education has built and will continue to build America. They need to get out of this myopic mindset of a culture war and get back into the notion of making good policy.
Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell is filing a lawsuit to challenge the funding directive. This is GBH News.
I'm Jim Browdy.
He is Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Yeagan. Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow and Wednesday. And on Wednesday, we're going to be joined by Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston, from 11 to noon to take our questions and yours. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. We're joined now on Zoom for All Revved Up by the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett G. Price III. Reverend Monroe is a syndicated religion columnist and the Boston Voice for Detour's African American Heritage Trail. Reverend Price is a founding pastor of the Community of Love Christian Fellowship in Olston, the inaugural Dean of Africana Studies at Berklee College of Music, who did not watch the Super Bowl yesterday. Together, they host GBH's All Revved Up podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, you two.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Monday.
So before we start, you didn't watch the Super Bowl, right?
I did not.
And can you, for people who are new to the show, could you give us, do you mind 30 seconds about why,
Absolutely.
even though you love football, you don't watch it?
Back in 2016, when the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, he took the knee out of protest for, the black bodies who were being murdered and, got scandalized and whatnot. And there was a protest for us to not watch the NFL. And I kind of joined the protest and never went back. However, I do watch the halftime.
I knew that was my next question.
Well,
so what'd you think?
I can attest to that. I got to say something because we were taping our latest podcast.
Yeah.
And we stopped the podcast to watch
for Kendrick Lamar.
Yes. Okay.
So quickly, starting with
give us your review. What'd you think?
Irene, you go first. Then
absolutely, the 13 minutes was just spectacular here. And at one moment, I couldn't believe my eyes. I kept saying, "Is that Serena doing the crip walk?"
That was incredible.
Listen, the
Serena Williams, if you weren't watching, yeah.
Yes, and the whole idea of Samuel Jackson as the MC, as Uncle Sam was a hoot, because when he said salutations, this is your uncle, Sam. It was an absolute scream here.
Let's get Emmett's thoughts quickly if we can, as a music guy here too. Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal to come off of the Grammy wins, last weekend to do, this, and to have so much coded messaging that really went not only at the nation, but the various communities and the different cultures represented within the nation. I thought it was absolutely brilliant in so many different ways. And the dancing was amazing.
Okay, give us one.
And the colors.
Give us one.
Red, white, and blue.
What'd you like? What were the coded messages you like? Tell us, Emmett.
Well, Kendrick Lamar has been going in this underground battle. Actually, it's not underground battle with Drake. And to actually have both of Drake's former girlfriends on the stage
that's right.
with him.
Serena being one of them. That's right.
Okay.
But another coded message, which I thought was really wonderful, because there was an intentionality of being dressed in red, white, and blue. And there was this point where the MC, Uncle Sam Jackson, says, "Okay, you're too loud, you're too reckless, you're too ghetto." And then Lamar comes in and says, peekaboo, but I'm here.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing.
Well, here's another moment from the Super Bowl that's getting some talk. It's a clip from this year's He Gets Us commercial. It features a cover of Depeche Mode's 1990 song Personal Jesus.
Okay, I think we get the point across there. With
Okay, I like the one where they had the people washing feet of people that they wouldn't like. Like a pro-choice person washing the feet of a pro-life person. That was I think the last year or the year before. But what did you think about this, Emmett?
Yeah, I missed it.
Oh, you missed it. That's right. You missed it. Did you see it, Irene?
I did, absolutely. Yeah. And stuff. Well, listen. I think we all want a comforting message about religion. If you can use Jesus in that way and not weaponize Jesus, then that's fine. If you're using, as you say, the teachings of Jesus, Matthew 25, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. Okay, but I think the problem with that's not the intentionality. It is part of a very robust rollout of Project 2025 to install Christian nationalism. See, because I think that one of the things that if we were really about a liberation gospel, we would also say that Jesus was a Jew. It would help us to understand anti-Semitism just a tad better.
But here's what I don't understand. If that's the agenda, and that's what I've understood, this for either of you, even if you didn't see it, Emmett, you know about the organization behind it. It's Hobby Lobby Money. They refer to Jesus as a refugee, which it seems to me was an attempt to, in the spirit of Reverend Bishop Buddy, is to say, show some mercy on refugees who are not being very merciful with, which is a message that I find to be very warm and welcoming, Emmett.
Well, one of the things about refugees is that, in that theological or in that sociological praxis, they actually do like some refugees. They just don't like the black ones, or the brown ones.
Okay.
That's right.
So, the ones that are coming from Europe, the ones that are coming from designated spaces, what is Elon Musk saying, that we need to have more South Africans coming, white South Africans?
Oh, yeah, Trump wants to get the white South Africans out of there. That's right.
So
yeah. And Paula White, who is has always been his spiritual guide or compass here, would say that Jesus would not violate what we have today as these immigration laws.
I see.
She goes so much as to say that at the time he gets to Egypt, well, he really wasn't an immigrant or a refugee, because if he were, he wouldn't have violated it. I mean,
by the way, she is now head of the
that.
White House Faith Office. For those who are unfamiliar with her role, one of the interesting, we talked a lot, I think, with you and without you, about the strength and courage of Bishop Buddy, and she was the one at the obviously at the ceremony in the church after at National Cathedral, or where was it?
Yeah, National.
Yeah,
no,
it wasn't. It's a smaller church, I think. The day
Episcopal
after,
church.
and she talked about directly to Donald Trump about being merciful and showing concern for people who he generally doesn't feel concern for. And she's now getting threats, which is not surprising. And I hadn't thought of this before. We talk a lot about how a billionaire industrialists and tech people are totally intimidated by Trump into silence. University presidents intimidated into silence. Are people who stand behind the pulpit suffering the same? I mean, Buddy obviously didn't, but are we seeing a shift in the courage of people in the front of the church to speak the truth? Go ahead there, Emmett.
Yeah, I mean, you read the roll call, as we say. Congress people, senators, silent, and certainly behind the pulpit, people are literally changing their theological praxis in order to align with the cultural shift in the nation, so that they can be on the quote unquote right side of history. But history is never on the right side when it's created and literally led by a demagogue trying to do things that are antithetical to what the divine has suggested over time.
But what you're missing out here in churches like ours, black churches have always been been oppositional to a government that very much want to oppress people. I felt what was really problematic, the way he went after Buddy here. And again, how dare she during the service says, Mr. President, please show mercy to immigrants. I think her message offered a vision of hope and unity. And one of the things that we understand is that unity is not partisan. If anything, the whole idea of unity encompasses not only respect of differences, but a multiple of perspectives that are worthy to have God's blessing and be protected under our government. And so I thought it takes courage to speak out against them, because another thing I need to say, a lot of churches is a business model, you see, and if your congregations don't want to hear being mercy to the poor, and the disadvantaged and the dispossessed, then a lot of them are doing, it's not a course correct, but they're self-censoring. And so we're not hearing as much of that social justice and message that we would like to hear.
You know what? Beyond the content, which I loved, and the courage she showed to deliver it eyeball to eyeball with the newly elected president who doesn't tolerate disagreement terribly well. I don't know if you read the most recent story about her getting threats, in which she admitted, which I found so beautiful, how nervous she was when she was doing. Now, obviously, we'd all be nervous, but to admit it after being this internationally celebrated, courageous soul made her even more appealing to me than she was before.
But I got to say, right here in Boston, John Nooney at St. Cecilia's has been outspoken about the immigration things, and so has a priest at my church, St. Ignatius, the Jesuit John Ronsky, has been outspoken about this. And the National Catholic Reporter, which is a really terrific newspaper, has slammed the bishops for not being tough enough about this. They're speaking out more about the United Catholic Bishops. Slammed J.D. Vance for trying to somehow say that St. Augustine was okay with what they're doing for immigrants. So there is a pushback. And unlike the Protestant denominations that don't have like a central kind of deal, it is good to see at least some of the... I think the Catholic Church is divided between the social justice people and the Trumpsters. But the social justice people have been very loud at the National Catholic Reporter, and I love it.
But Marjorie, I really feel like the moral consciousness will shift, and believe it or not, because I always like this separation between church and state, will have to come from courageous ministers like Emmett, myself, and Buddy, and others, because that's the way we did it during the Civil Rights Movement. Because we're so embedded around how faith should guide us as a country and a people, it will in many ways be a lot of faith leaders who will have to really lead the course around changing.
I'm so glad you mentioned the separation of church and state, because I don't know if most of our listeners remember when we had that in this country.
We're getting rid of it now.
A long time ago. We're going to discuss that actually with you when we come back after a
nice idea. Been there, done that. Okay, we're going to talk more with the Reverends after this quick pledge break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting. Well, actually, we're in Brighton today, Marjorie. We're not at the library, but we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Correct.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support, so please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
I'm going to read a couple of these complimentary things because they make me feel good. Harold and Karen in Brookline. We value public broadcasting and realize this is a crucial time for us to step up, so they donated during the show today. Gina from Rosendale, thank you for all the work you guys do. And Karina in Westport, NPR plus Jim and Marjorie, Island of Hope in our current sea of despair. Thank you very much for donating, and thank you very much for taking the time to write your comments. And it is an important time to donate because National Public Radio is a national treasure, if you ask me, and it's under the gun somewhat now in this new administration. We've not been very popular with Elon Musk or with Donald Trump for that matter. So if you have been hesitating and you like what you hear on our station and other NPR stations, the number to call is 888-897-9424. gbhnews.org is the website. The vast majority of our money, more than 70%, comes from listeners like yourselves, small donations. We also have a lot of big philanthropies that give too. But part of our money, not very much. Was it 5% that comes from the government?
It's a single-digit number.
Yeah, I think it's 5% 2% comes from the government, which is not a majority, obviously, but it's significant. So 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Did you hear the introduction of this? Our colleague was saying 3 hours of thought-provoking conversation. I felt like saying, I got to listen to that.
That's right.
Whatever, can't be, in any case. So here's the deal. Marjorie is, we had a deal this morning that she would always talk about the fanny pack, and I wouldn't have to, but obviously she just screwed me on that. So it's a $10 a month, $120 all at once. It is wild. I mean, it's very attractive for a fanny pack.
That's right.
I wouldn't, but only for a fanny pack.
It is a hot-looking fanny pack.
It is a really
as hot as you can be when you're a fanny pack.
It is gone in 40 minutes. It's gone. And so $10 a month, $120 all at once. And you can shove a lot of stuff in there. And I hate when my pockets are full. I really hate that. You call 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. It's very brief. And if you don't mind, if you have time or the inclination to, in addition to being generous with your contribution, leave us a little note about our colleagues, about the work we do, those of us who are lucky enough to be on air, those behind the scenes, etc. It's really generous and great. It makes everybody feel good. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan and Jim Brown. I should just say that CNN is reporting that Hamas is saying it's postponing its next hostage release, blaming Israel, I guess, for a violation of it, according to them. We're live, continuing our conversation with the Reverend Irene Monroe and Emmett G. Price III.
So, Irene, you flagged a piece for us from the aforementioned National Catholic Reporter, the headline of which is the new trend in must-see TV is pastoral care. So what's this all about?
Yeah, I think, I have two thoughts on this. Number one is that we're become a people who really don't want to hear about the social problems in the world. And so we're seeing a shift, number one, towards healthcare and pastoral care, but also it is a way to get nuns, NONES, back into the church and have a sense of community, because this is a group that is suffering greater than any other group around isolation and community. But I think it's very wonderful because we have shown that with pastoral care, not only do we take better care of ourselves, but we take better care of our neighbors as well. So I'm liking this trend because, again, it's reaching out to folks in ways that it would never ever done before. And what I like about it is that its theme is more about the universality of human brokenness. And that is what brings people together because it gives them a sense of hope.
What do you think, Emmett?
Yeah, I mean, context is everything. I think that, the notion of the various therapies and the various approaches that we take to human wellness and wholeness are very, 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 very important. I think the challenge, though, is that when we're trying to substitute a substitute for a substitute, we have an issue, right? And the issue is how do we get back to the core of being relational and having a society where we can all kind of, and I don't like this term, coexist. I don't like the term, but things are so hostile right now. And when you add the sense of loneliness and solitude that Irene is talking about, you have to start somewhere. And so I appreciate it for that. But I don't want to lose sight of what the goal is, which is for human beings to actually be in relationship. Even if we disagree with one another, we can disagree without being disagreeable. And that's not what we have in 2025.
But the goal there, though, but I don't think that goal is missed by this new approach. I think that the church needs to shift. I think that it's important to understand that you can't heal the world like racism and sexism until you heal it in yourself. And so I think that this modality of pastoral care is important in a time that it is very, very hard to find a therapist or an afford one or a psychiatrist. And so that if this, or take it to the altar, and I have told many folks that yes, do both, take it to Jesus, take it to the altar, but you also need to take it to a therapist. Yeah. So I think that in many ways that this is a very holistic way to bring about a healing of a people. Now, I'm the first to tell you that religion don't work for all of us, right, Jim? But
yes, Reverend Monroe.
Okay. But the point is, so I'm saying that not one size fit all. But if folks have such an orientation, such as this, I think that we can do the necessary work, to bring about the needed change.
So this case before the Supreme Court, made up of 6 Catholics, by the way, a couple of them are pretty fanatical Catholics, would force state governments to pay for religious schools. This comes from the planned public charter school in Oklahoma, which would be run by 2 Catholic dioceses. It essentially
to pay for religious public schools. Yeah.
Yes, they're public schools. They're public charter schools. Well, most charter schools are public schools, and but they're going to be run by the Catholic Church essentially, and this would be a huge change. You want to start, Emmett?
Well, I mean, Marjorie, since January 20th, we've had a huge change every day, including, getting rid of the penny. I mean, so this is...
Wait a minute. We're talking about that with listeners. Are you opposed to getting rid of the penny, or are you down with it?
My mind can't even get there because I'm dealing with some larger things.
Okay.
But I know that as a tax-paying individual, I'm not necessarily interested in having religion schools funded out of tax-paying dollars because of one of the reasons that Irene always talks about, the separation of church and state. So if I am Muslim and I'm a tax-paying Muslim, I don't necessarily want to, if I'm a tax-paying Jew or a practitioner of Judaism or atheism.
I'm an agnostic, but thank you. One of my friends just texted me, Irene, one of my friends just texted me and said, "Thank God for Irene for outing you as a heathen," is what he just...
Yeah, Jim is covering his bets, right? Covering his bets.
I'm sorry, Irene,
Absolutely.
go ahead.
But I just need to say this as I'm a Democrat. As Democrats, we have no game. All we can do is criticize what Trump is doing until we have a game here. As I said here, of course, with people of faith, with people of no faith. But we have seen that the Supreme Court is packed in such a way. I think he has 2/3 of the court.
Yes,
is certainly are conservative Christians. We're not surprised. We've seen decisions that the court has made with the erosion of church and state, with the football coach who wanted to pray 50 yards.
50-yard line after the game.
That's right.
But that ain't nothing next to this. I mean, I'm not saying that's not significant. Yeah. This would be the ultimate dagger in the heart of the separation of church and state.
Yeah, I agree, but we have no game to push back. I mean, we saw this with Maine using public funds for religious schools. We've seen this where states have wanted to use the 10 Commandment and put it at the Capitol steps. What we have to do is, and it's important to criticize this, but we're seeing the rollout of, as I say, Project 2025. What we have to do is take courageous people like Bishop Bundy and others to really, really educate folks who will come to church or have a religious bent about why this is problematic.
Bishop Buddy.
You said twice Democrats got no game there, and you're a Democrat. You got any ideas for what the Democrats should be doing, Irene? Because that's the big question.
What are they? Quickly.
I really, really do. I think that number one is that they have to use the same kind of language that they are using, because they appropriate it from us, but spin it in such a way that it renders a different kind of interpretation. I'll give you an example. They have taken Martin Luther King's statement that, judge us not by the
content,
color. Right, but we need to. So now it has a different interpretation. Well, we can use it. We say, switch the script here.
Okay, so we are told that there is a relatively new, like a week old. Podcast that sounds pretty provocative to me. What's the deal, Emmett?
Well, we did an episode. The episode that's out now is on the silence of scandal. So we're talking about some of the R. Kelly and P. Diddy and Bill Cosby stuff. And so that's out for listeners to listen now. But this coming Wednesday, we're going to drop a new one on Black Love and Black Joy.
And Black Romance. That's right.
Oh, good. We need a little joy and romance about this time, I think.
We need a lot of it.
Good. Absolutely. Oh, good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much, as always.
By the way, before you go away, should we get rid of the penny quickly, you guys? Yes or no?
He hasn't decided.
No, because I have have a whole
No.
jar of them.
So
Absolutely.
cash them in. They're
No.
not going to seize them, Irene. They're not going to come to your house.
Or you might be able to save them.
Take them.
But you never know. You never know what will happen to your income. And if anything happens to my income, I got a whole huge jar.
Yeah, that'll get you far. Okay, fair enough. Good to see you both. Be
Okay.
well.
Thank you. We've been speaking with the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett G. Price III. Reverend Irene Monroe is a syndicated religion columnist, the Boston voice of Detour's African American Heritage Trail. Emmett G. Price III is founding pastor of Community of Love Christian Fellowship in Alston, the inaugural Dean of Africana Studies at Berklee College of Music. Together they host GBH's All Revved Up podcast, which is back, and it's available wherever you get your podcast, the All Revved Up podcast. Okay, up next, we end the show by talking about the penny. We just
I'm
asked
into this, by the way.
and Irene about this. What happens if you become part of the 53% who agree with Trump's agenda, and maybe you agree with his getting rid of the penny? Maybe this is something you can get behind with the new administration if you're not a Donald Trump fan. Ditch the penny or not. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
Yeah, Marjorie said to me during the loud news break at the top of the hour that while she has many, many, many fanny packs, she finds this one to be the most attractive should she take one home at the end of the day. Did you not say that?
Fetching.
Fetching it is. So here is the deal. It is a black bag into which you can what can you stuff into it, Marjorie?
You can put your keys, your wallet, your phone, your credit card, your glasses. Yeah, I mean, it's great.
Okay,
you
fine.
have them right there, right in front of you. Or
Shove it
behind
all
you.
in there. It's
Shove
black
it all in there.
with an 89 with a GBH 89.7 and NPR logo in white. I want to be honest because I try to be honest on the air. I will not be wearing this anytime soon, but Marjorie will be. Because she is going to give, as you might want to do, $10 a month or $120 all at once to get the GBH belt, otherwise known as fanny or shoulder bag.
Half hour left.
Half
Jim.
hour left, Ray. It's gone in 28
Disappears.
minutes. So if you're interested in the fanny bag, and frankly, if you're not interested in it at all, but if you're interested in what we produce here at GBH Radio, then call 888-897-9424. Go to gbhnews.org and give what you can. I don't know how many days we have. I think we're almost on the pledge break tomorrow, the next day, whatever. So it is procrastination, anti-procrastination time. Don't let this opportunity pass and say, I really wanted to do it during the pledge drive and I forgot to. I got busy. Do it right now. Take 2 minutes. 888-897-9424. gbhnews.org.
And whether you give as a sustainer member, that means you got to give the $10 a month for the fanny pack, or you don't want to do something like that, you can just give
or
once.
any amount of money.
You can do a one-time kind of deal. If you got $5, if you got $10, if you got like $100, you can just do a one-time deal. If you're not a fanny pack enthusiast, as Jim obviously is not.
No, I am.
I like them very much. I
me.
just call them belly packs. I wear them in the front.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the deal. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. We do these fundraisers a few times a year so that we do not have to do commercials on this radio station.
Correct.
And if you listen to commercial radio, you know that the commercials last a very long time.
Long time.
Usually have 3 of them an hour, and they're like 6 and 7 minutes long. That's a really long time. We do not do that here, but we have to find a way to support ourselves since we don't do commercials. And what we do is we get most of our funding, more than 70%, from the generosity of listeners like you guys donating $5, $10.
Our show
$50,
is, what's Marjorie's trying to say, let me say it directly. Our show is hanging by a fanny pack. And that's really, that's really.
Right. And the strap is fraying. What do we do? Oh, no.
We tell people to call 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're live in Studio 3, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're at the library tomorrow, which would be Tuesday. We're at the library Wednesday, 11 to 12 at the top of the show. Mayor Wu joins us in person from at the library to answer your questions and ours. So Donald Trump has ordered, I think it was yesterday, the Treasury Department to stop minting pennies.
I'm with him.
Still unclear if that's a power he actually has, but that's never stopped him before. Well, Let's go back to the thrilling days of yesteryear. A decade ago, John Oliver made a plea to ditch the penny on his HBO show Last Week Tonight. Here he is.
Let's dump the penny. Not because we need to, not because it will change a great deal, but because there are certain things we know are impossible to get rid of. Terrorism, herpes, and Guy Fieri. but the penny is a nuisance we could actually do something about. So let's do it, America. Let's get the penny out of our pockets, out of our dogs, out of our fridges, and out of our arses. We can do this!
Okay, we're not going to take any calls about whether it's legal or not for him to do. We don't care about it. We're going to talk about the issue itself. They cost more than they are worth to produce. Every penny costs 3.69 cents to produce. So doesn't it make a sense to support Donald Trump on this, which at least one of us is, I don't know about Marjorie, or are you a penny supporter, as Irene and Emmett were a few minutes ago? The number is 877-301-8970. Call or text. I know it's Pledge Week here at GBH, so we will gladly take all of those soon-to-be useless coins off your hands. Where are you on this again?
I am so happy because I have now found something I agree with the president about.
Me too.
On the penny. So it makes me feel, I'm not totally out of it, living in a country that I don't understand. I'm down with Donald Trump on getting rid of the penny. It's ridiculous. People say they just collect them. They never spend them. So what we do is we replace pennies that won't be spent, and then a few more years we replace a few more pennies that will not be spent. We keep replacing these.
$85 million a year we spent on pennies, this
crazy.
Government, or whatever it's called.
It's crazy. I'm down with the Americans for Common Sense
Me too.
crusade, and that
Whoever
is
they are.
CENTS, Americans for Common Sense. They're an advocacy group which says...
I thought they're on the other side. Which side are they on?
Are they on the wrong side?
Okay, well, whatever.
Oh, no.
No,
American for Common Sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. They're the opposition.
Common sense.
They are the
CENTS.
opposition. They say eliminating pennies would not save money because many
point,
overhead
Marjorie.
expenses at the mint would remain and would need to be absorbed by other
Can
coins.
I tell you something? I have to say,
See, I'm
one of the things...
disappointed. I was going to join their
Okay, fine.
their
One of the
crusade.
things that separates you and me, I'm a big thinker. And let me give you an example. I'm not just for abolishing the penny because it's useless and costs 3.69 cents to produce every penny. I am for getting rid of the nickel, Marjorie.
Oh, my God.
You know how much a nickel, how much is that worth?
5 cents.
And you know how much it costs to make? 13.78 cents.
It's outrageous.
Let's get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
And the first coin in ascending order, which costs less to make than its value, you know what that would be called? A dime.
A dime.
I am pro-dime.
How much does it cost to make a dime?
I'll make it 8.7 cents. I have no idea. It's less than 10 cents. I know that. I read that. But the key is here, Marjorie is proposing dumping the penny. I am thinking bigger and proposing getting rid of the penny and the nickel. And we'll see what you think. 877-301-8970. In all seriousness, can you think of one argument? We're pretty good at thinking about the other side. Can you think of one argument for keeping the penny?
Well, the American Sense people that I just mentioned them. I thought they were on my side, but they're not. They say it wouldn't save any money, and
that's ridiculous. Though
that's
it costs
what they say.
$85 million
would need
a
to be
year.
Absorbed by other coins, increasing their per unit cost.
That's ridiculous.
That's what they say.
Fools. Marjorie
and the
belongs to the wrong
elimination
group.
of the penny will increase the demand for nickels. Now, if Jim wants to get rid of both
against
of them,
nickels too.
But they predict the people at the Americans for Common Sense (CENTS), this advocacy group, they say that that's what's going to happen. We're going to spend more money on nickels if we get rid of the penny, Jim.
Okay, one of our colleagues found out that the U.S. Mint reported, you know what it costs to make a dime? 5.3 cents.
What a bargain.
And one of our colleagues, I think it's Aiden, says to make pennies cheaper, why not just make them 30% smaller? Because the answer is you'd need a microscope to see them. That's the reason.
Okay.
We can't do that. 877-301-8970. Even though Marjorie joined the wrong group, she is still against the penny, and I am against the penny. So let's take some calls, Marjorie.
Okay, let's go to Chris in Marlboro. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Chris in Marlboro.
Hello, can you hear me clearly?
Perfectly.
Yeah. The pennies also, it consumes energy to
Excellent
produce
point.
the
Great
penny.
point. Yep.
Not work at let's go green, get rid of the penny and the nickel as well. It's probably the same issue.
It is exact. By the way, why didn't we think of the climate thing? Chris, thanks for the call.
I should have
That's
thought
a
of it.
wonderful point, by the way. He is in favor of getting rid of the penny and the nickel, Marjorie.
Kate in the South Shore South Coast asked a very important question.
I'll answer it.
She's asking for a friend. She says, "Does this mean my inherited coin collection, including all those penny books, could be worth more in the future?"
It does.
That's
I
right.
used to have coin collection.
Roadshow with your
you
pennies.
could, and you take them in, and that's a really popular show. Do you know that?
Yeah, it is a very popular show. It's a great show. I love that show.
Yeah.
You ever notice how you see a penny, it's really dirty, and you find out it's like from 1948 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of exciting,
really
isn't
exciting.
it?
It's incredibly
Do you pick
exciting.
pennies off the sidewalk when you see them?
If nobody's looking, I do. I do. By the way, actually, you want to know the truth? Not only do I pick up pennies on the sidewalk if no one's looking, if it is heads up, I pick it up even if somebody is looking because it's bad luck, I believe, if you don't pick it up.
Okay,
Do you know that?
Want to hear Homer Simpson on this?
Sure, why not?
There's a certain kind of joy that a certain kind of person experiences stumbling across a stray penny, and here is Homer Simpson.
Is that what I think it is?
Well,
Look
a lot
how
of people,
excited he is.
He is, exactly. And also a lot of other countries, I think most of them have eliminated the smallest is denomination right for a coin?
Yes.
Yeah, the smallest denomination. Here is Lisa in Cambridge, who apparently is not with us on this. Lisa, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking my call.
Our pleasure.
I'm going to say facetiously, why don't we just get rid of money altogether? Kids today don't know how to count. They can't do anything mentally. They need to do calculators. They can't make change because they don't understand the math.
That is correct, actually.
I think we should keep pennies and nickels and dimes because they are a unit of measure. It's math, and our kids already stink at math.
Well, why can't we? But Lisa, even though I agree with everything you said, except for the penny thing, why can't they start their math lessons with dimes?
They can't even do it with pennies. What's going to make them better with dimes?
No, that's a compelling argument.
Have you been where you pay cash?
I know.
And you have some younger person trying to make change. They can't even. They don't even understand what the money is. I used to teach. I used coins as a way to get kids to practice multiplication, kids to practice counting, and stacking and fine motor control. Not that those are good reasons to keep a coin that isn't used, but if Donald Trump is making a pledge at $85 million, we say, where do you think that's going to go? Who's going to get that $85 million?
Yeah,
this is an
Elon
excellent
Musk
call.
is going to get it.
Lisa, you really nailed us. Thank you for the call. That was
Listen
excellent.
to this texter who says, make the penny worth 2 cents. Think about it.
I've thought about
Apparently
it.
the
Wait a second,
Europeans have a 2-cent coin.
Excuse me, I have thought about it.
Yep.
It costs almost 4 cents to make a penny. So if it's worth 2 cents, it's still a losing proposition.
Well, you're not losing quite as much.
Why don't you make it worth 4 cents, anonymous texter?
Listen to this from Tom in New Bedford. I once delivered an entire truckload of penny blanks to the Philadelphia Mint. It was an extremely heavy load, and I burned a lot of fuel to deliver them.
Do you ever go to the Star Market with your coins and flip them in the machine? Yeah,
No,
they take 7%.
I've never done that.
It's very satisfying.
Is it?
Very satisfying.
Yeah, the kids like to keep those penny jars at home. Yeah, that'll be the end of that.
Okay, no, it won't be the end of that. You don't have to give up your pennies.
Okay.
I said that to Irene. They're not going to seize your pennies. What do you think they're going to do? We're going to take a break. I'm serious. What are you laughing about? They're not going to come.
Donald Trump is gonna come to your
Elon Musk is going to come in your house
seize
and take your
penny
pennies.
jars.
He's got a 19-year-old
Johnny,
kid by the name of Big
Susie.
Balls coming to take your pennies.
That's right. Okay, we're talking about the one thing I can get excited about that Donald Trump is doing. He wants to get rid of the penny. I'm with him. 877-301-8970. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Live, local, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Now, we have admitted here that that Jim is not big onto wearing a fanny pack. I think fanny packs are okay. You can wear them in the front there, belly pack, or you can wear them under your shoulder. But if you are a fanny pack kind of person here, we're running out of time to get it. We got 16 minutes left in the show. The fanny packs are gone. gone at 2 o'clock. So if you've been hesitating, you want something that some people think is pretty stylish. No, it's all in black. It's got the white GBH 89.7 and NPR logos, so you can do a little kind of walking advertisement for what you listen to. It's $10 a month as a sustaining member, or you can give $120 all at once. And you do not ask for the fanny pack, you ask for the GBH belt bag, but it's only available for 17 more minutes. And I really appreciate, we both really appreciate people who take the time to donate to us, because that's how we stay on the air. And we really appreciate the people who send these nice messages, which I take home with me and I read when I'm feeling depressed at night, Jim. People that say nice things like, love 1A, love Jim and Marjorie, love the jazz, have listened forever. That's from Jessica in Boxford. Isn't that nice?
Very nice.
And yes, and here's a friend in Somerset. We listen to Jim and Marjorie every day. Good source of news and opinions. Thank you very much. You're very welcome.
Can I just say one thing?
What?
I mean, I know this sounds arrogant. Does anybody do better penny talk than we do? No, I'm serious. I'm sure a lot of people are talking about this because Trump proposed yesterday. Does anybody get to the essence of this like we do?
I think we've just got right to the quick.
We nailed the penny issue.
I think so.
Okay, so as Marjorie said,
yes.
the penny.
The penny.
What do you call the thing? The fanny pack is gone in 15 minutes, which will really be a sad time for a lot of us. And so if you want the fanny pack, $10 a month, $120 all at once at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. But, forget the fanny pack. Give something if you can afford it and you appreciate the work that our colleagues do. Let me just say it again.
Yep.
We are on the air. I think you're aware of that. There are a ton of people who make this show happen who you don't see, and we do. And if you want to support their wonderful work to make these kinds of shows happen, like belly up to the bar and do what you can. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And if you want the fanny pack too, $10 a month, $120 all at once, and it's gone now in 14 minutes. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The mayor joins us on Wednesday at the library at 11. We're at the library tomorrow. Now, we're both for getting rid of the penny, and even though Marjorie joined the wrong organization, so that may be a problem.
Oh, well.
Here's what a friend of ours texted me, that we're asking the wrong question.
We are.
The value of 1 cent is not relevant, says he. The correct question is there benefit to the economy greater than the cost to produce? And the answer is get rid of them. So we reached the right conclusion, but as usual, with the wrong question.
Here's another texter who has the opposite perspective.
What is it?
Pennies are important as you buy things. If apples are $2 a pound and you buy 1.27 pounds of apples, Jim, then you will need some pennies.
Okay. Can I use a word that he may not have heard? She or they, rounding is what we call it. If it turns out it's 2 cents, or of course I'm getting rid of nickels too. That's a problem.
No more a penny for your thought, says Donna on the road. This will just add to inflation. And Zoe says she's ready to get rid of all her pennies because she's going to invest in Bitcoin or Donald Trump's meme coin.
When you were a kid, did you ever do that thing where you put the penny in the slot at the fair with the weird people and you get a distorted penny to come out for like $1? You never did that?
No, I never did that.
You never got like it presses the penny?
No,
it's probably illegal kind of thing.
Missed that.
Nicole, well, whatever. Nicole, I don't know where you are, but
Ashfordham.
Where the hell is Ashfordham? Ashburnham? Where are you, Nicole?
Ashburnham.
Oh, Ashburnham.
Very
Thank
good,
you.
Jim.
Nice to have you. Whatever. What's up?
So with the penny, I mean, it has nothing to do with economics or anything, but with Valentine's Day coming up, I just thought that everybody should know that if you put a penny in the bottom of your vase of flowers, your flowers will last twice as long.
By the way, that is true. I forgot about that actually. But can't you put like a couple thousand pennies aside in your bathroom or in your bedroom or your closet and then save them for the flower time? Don't you think, Nicole?
I mean, if they get rid of it, then I won't have to hoard pennies.
So Nicole, if you have flower food, do you use both the flower food and the pennies, or is it one or the other?
Yeah.
I usually use both.
She uses both.
Well, she has the healthiest flowers in Ashburnham.
That's what I
hear.
hear. They're spectacular.
Nicole, thank you. An anonymous texter did the math. You know how much a fanny pack costs?
12,000 pennies.
12,000 pennies. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's legal
You know
tender.
the people, you ever get to the bank and somebody brings in all their
I used to do that all the
bags
time.
of pennies. Yeah, that can be really annoying if you're behind them.
You know, in modern day, if you bring in coins, you have to roll them yourself.
yourself.
In the old days, like as recently as 10 years ago, you could just bring in like a wheelbarrow kind of thing of coins, and they would shove them in the whatchamacallit thing. Do you know what I mean? They
Yes,
shove them in
little
the
containers.
machine. And
First
by the way, this is a really good question. I can't answer this. Marjorie can. Lorraine in Temple, New Hampshire says, how many pennies would fit in a GBH fanny pack?
Ooh.
Just curious. How many would you say?
I'd say maybe 1,500.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'd say like 1420.
Then you wouldn't be able to walk, though.
That'd be a problem. Yeah.
If you weighted down.
It'd be a crotch
at the
pack
guy
if that
from-
was the case at that point, because it'd really be way
Or
down.
a knee pack.
That's probably polite to do that.
Okay, Ellen from Westport, what do you think?
Hello, Ellen.
Hi, how are you two?
We're
Fine,
excellent.
thank
Thank you
you.
for asking.
I am so angry at this Trumpikins lusty musty stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm going to say about the penny, I say keep them. You know why?
Why?
I try to do some research by other, believe it or not, stations. I love YouTube. I still am loyal to YouTube, but I listen to other stuff just to get some smart stuff in my brain,
Yep.
okay, and try to cool my temper down.
Yeah, go ahead.
We should keep that penny because I had heard about sometime last summer that China is in, of course, you guys know, they're in what is a competition for the economy versus us versus them. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
The solar panels right now require an amount of copper within them in their production.
Yeah.
They're going to take that money because we have such wonderful, honest people running this country right now. They're going to make a fortune dealing with China, okay, because now China's pushing back.
Yeah.
Don't you guys think that they could possibly make a deal with the copper business in order for them?
No, the
Chinese
penny, can I
to
tell you, I'm going to
have-
make you sleep easier. A penny, I think, is 98% zinc, and it actually only has a copper, like, veneer, Ellen. So I think you didn't know that?
No.
Well, it's because you joined the wrong group.
I joined the wrong group.
Ellen, I appreciate your thought, though. Thank you very much for the
I think it was a great idea, though.
call. It was a good idea.
Great idea.
It was?
Ellen, thank you very
Ellen,
much.
thank you for the call.
Okay, we are done.
We're done.
Thank you very much for listening. For
9
another
minutes
edition
for
of
the
Boston
fanny
Pub-
pack,
9
by the
minutes for the fanny pack.
Yeah.
That is correct.
That's it.
And thanks to everybody who watches on YouTube. You can keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow we're going to be live at the Boston Public Library.
We are.
CNN's John King is going to join us. The ACLU's Carol Rose. Can't wait to hear what they're doing to fight back
So,
some of these
I can't wait
initiatives.
either, yeah.
LGBTQ civil rights attorney Alejandra Caraballo and Nikki Shults of Everday Boston joins us
It's a great
with
group,
wrongfully
actually.
incarcerated Stephen Pina to talk about their community building work. We'll even hold a letter writing, Valentine's card writing session with them at the library. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, who's getting rich on meme coins, Donald and Melania's meme coin there, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, our engineer, John the Claw Parker, our executive producer, Jenny Bologna. I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. Only 8 minutes left for that fanny pack if you like it, and it's black with white letters, and it's quite attractive. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a great afternoon, and hope you can tune in tomorrow or stop by the Boston Public Library.
Boston Public Radio today was made possible thanks to our listeners who make voluntary contributions. That's how GBH and the public radio model works. The money you give keeps Boston Public Radio on the air. We encourage you to make a monthly gift by signing up as a sustaining member during our winter membership drive. It takes just a few minutes at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424. I'm Maeve Buckley, and I'm joined by Melissa Jones.
Marjorie was making a good case for this belt bag, fanny pack, whatever you want to call it. It's one of these great new bags that we have. It's available only until, 2 o'clock. That's coming up fast here. 7 minutes or so? You want to make sure you take advantage of this. This is the only time this is going to be available during this membership drive. It's a black bag with the GBH 89.7 and NPR logos on it in white. It's the perfect size for all of your essentials, your phone, your keys, your wallet, that kind of stuff. Then you make sure it's up against your body and you got it secure and you're not going to set it down somewhere. I know I would do that. In fact, I have done that. $10 a month or $120 $120 all at once. Save yourself from yourself by making sure your stuff is up against you with the fantastic GBH belt bag. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And if you have weekly, if not daily, visits with Jim and Marjorie, then this membership drive is about you. You count on Boston Public Radio to keep you ahead of the news while providing a good dose of humor at the same time. There's nothing else like it on the air, and it stays that way only with your support. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
So the goal right now is 10 contributions in the next 6 minutes. We look to the financial support of everyone who relies on GBH to keep this important service on the air and available to all. GBH has been your source of credible news, and your contribution now helps keep it that way. Listener contributions empower us to investigate, verify, report the truth, be a part of the power that we have on our air in our community. Give now and help meet that goal of 10 more contributions in the next, down to 5 minutes. Right now, gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
That's right. 5 minutes left to go to meet our goal. And that's also 5 minutes left to ask for the GBH belt bag as our thanks for your contribution of just $10 per month as a sustaining member, or a one-time gift of $120 all at once. Again, it is a perfect way to keep your essentials, your phone, keys, wallet, secure and easily accessible. And you can show off that you are a fan of GBH 89.7 and NPR when you're out and about with this bag. Again, that's thanks for your contribution of $10 per month, or give $120 all at once. But again, that deadline's coming up in just about 5 minutes. After that, the bag will not be available as our thanks. Please make that contribution by calling 888-897-9424. You can also check out an image of what the bag looks like when you make your gift online. That's at gbhnews.org.
Whenever you listen to GBH, you hear the difference. The in-depth and unbiased news, the thoughtful, civil conversations, stories told in a way that only GBH tells them. It truly is news that matters and is so important right now. If you've never given before, now is the time to invest in GBH. It's your support that makes it certain that we can cover issues, chase down the facts, and keep you up to date. Choose a monthly amount that works for you. Maybe it's $10 a month to get that great belt bag we've been talking about, or give all at once. But we're looking for you to join in and make great news, important news happen. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
Thank you so much again. If you've already made your gift of support, we heard from Mary in Watertown and Patrick in Andover, and also Linda in Somerville, who left a comment when she gave. She says, I'm already a member. I wanted to give just a little more to support GBH in these challenging and uncertain times. I especially appreciate Jim and Marjorie. Love how you mix serious and thought-provoking news with humor, and I enjoy the bickering. Well, thank you so much, Linda. Join everyone who's made their contribution right now by calling 888-897-9424. You can also leave a comment when you make your contribution online. That's at gbhnews.org.
I'm so excited about this belt bag we've been talking about. That's what people are signing up for right now. Marjorie's probably got one in her possession. I'm looking forward to getting mine because I want to make sure that my essentials are right with me all the time. A friend of mine left her purse at an event over the weekend. She had to drive from Natick all the way back into the city and back in. Oh, come on. Seriously? You don't have to worry about that if it's strapped to your body. So you can do that and show off that you're a proud supporter of GBH because the logos are on there. But it goes away in just 3 minutes. Don't miss this chance. $10 a month or $120 all at once. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424 and get yours now.
This is fantastic. We are down to just 4 more contributions to go. 4 more contributions to wrap up this hour, wrap up this day's edition of Boston Public Radio. If you have yet to make that contribution, help us reach this goal here. Keeps us on track for the overall goal for this winter membership drive. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
You know, we're talking a lot about the sustaining membership when we're talking about this great belt bag at $10 a month. The sustaining membership is just an easy way to give. It's easy for you. It's easy for GBH too, but it's easy for you because you choose the amount that's just right for you. You choose to take it out of either your bank account or your credit card. You set it up one time and it's taken care of. reserve. You never have to think about your support being current ever again. I'm a sustainer. I love it. Join with me and thousands of other people who have chosen that way to give. Do it right now and pick up that belt bag for just $10 a month. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
This is it. Last call to ask for the GBH belt bag as our thanks for your contribution of just $10 per month as a sustaining member, or you can make that a one-time gift of $120 all at once. You can check out an image of what it looks like when you're making that gift online, but get that call started or that online gift started, and it will count. Again, ask for the GBH belt bag as our thanks for your contribution of just $10 per month as a sustaining member, or a one-time gift of $120 all at once. That's 888-897-9424, or make your gift online at gbhnews.org.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you and the University of Massachusetts Amherst, the Commonwealth's flagship public university. You can learn more about research, innovation, and economic impact for the Commonwealth at umass.edu. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, ranked number 1 in member satisfaction among commercial health plans in Massachusetts by J.D. Power for the second consecutive year. Details at mgbhp.org/everyday.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at